Apologize for the delay in our start time. Justin, could you please give the invocation this evening?
All right. Well, good evening. Good evening, Madam Mayor, everyone. Please pray with me. The Lord of heaven and earth, we praise you for your power and wisdom, for your mercy and grace. And thank you, Lord, for every good and perfect gift that you send down freely, even as we ask from you. So we thank you for your gifts of life and health. Thank you for community and relationships. And with tonight in mind, we thank you for governance and leadership. And we thank you for this city, and we thank you for all of our public servants throughout City Hall, throughout our various departments. We thank you, too, for various organizations and nonprofits and skilled citizens that help our city and the people of Freeport. Lord, you actively rule the nations, and you give freely to those who ask you the knowledge to live well and the skill to apply that knowledge. So I ask that you would grant that to us and to our leaders. May they find your mercy and grace as well for their own faults and your help in their weaknesses. Lord, please help each one of us tonight to act honorably before you, and that we would be patient and gracious towards each other. And again, I pray that you'd give Mayor Miller, as our moderator, the wisdom, grace, and strength that she needs to lead this meeting well as to each council member and department head. And Father, you've designed us. You have gifted each one of us. We are entirely dependent upon you for success in our work. And so we ask for your help tonight. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you. So now we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller.
Here.
Alderperson Clem will be marked absent for the moment. Monroe is also absent. Simmons.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Stacy.
Here.
Shadle.
Here.
Sanders.
Here.
And Sellers.
Here.
If I could please get a motion to allow Alderman Clem to remote access.
So moved.
Second.
Parker? Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Sellers, to allow Alderman Clem in remote. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
And Sellers.
Aye.
And then if you could please note that at 6:14, Alderman Clem is present. And if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Alderman Simmons.
That I had. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't have an agenda.
Okay, item number 1 is approval of the agenda. However, we're going to move item number 16 to the next meeting, and then there is no executive. So with that, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
And Clem.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Item number 2 is approval from the minutes from the regular meeting on October 7th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Parker. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, we have quite a few that are signed up for public comment.
And I forgot, I received one this afternoon via email that I should have written on. May I go first?
Yeah, go first.
This public comment was received this afternoon from John Cook. Good evening, members of the Freeport City Council and others. First reading of ordinance 2024-57 is before you tonight, asking for the boundaries of the Northwest Illinois Enterprise Zone to be amended. This ordinance should be rejected as written because of 3 glaring omissions within the body of the ordinance. The first whereas paragraph offers no numerical citation to the previous ordinances that this ordinance relies upon to be reflective. The second whereas paragraph contains no citation to any meeting of the Enterprise Zone Committee where the request for this amendment originated. Section 2 of the ordinance refers to, quotes, benefits created by the ordinance of the original Enterprise Zone, end quote, yet contains no specific citation to the ordinances. Without proper direct and specific citation within the ordinances, it is practically impossible for the Freeport City Council or any member of the public to know what specific incentives Ordinance 2024-57 grants the developer. How would anyone know what ordinance to ask the municipal clerk for in an effort to learn what benefits are being given away? To be honest, in 30-plus years of following local government, Ordinance 2024-57 is the most shoddily incomplete ordinance I've ever read. Completely lacking citation from any previously passed ordinance, Ordinance 2024-57 can have no legal meaning in this layman's view. Please, City Council, remember you are passing a written ordinance, not what City Manager Boyer presents. Thank you very much for your time and attention. John Samuel Cook.
Okay, there's quite a few that are signed in for this evening. However, I do have one that's added on here that is not on the agenda, and Mr. Folgate comes every year to talk a little bit. Would that be okay if he talks at this time instead of waiting to the end? Anyone object? Okay, so we'll start at the top of the list. Each one of you have 3 minutes. Cecilia Stacy.
Cecilia Stacy, 5th Ward Alderwoman. It has come to our attention that there was a FOIA request for all documents pertaining to the Open Bible water main extension. Per your email response, Ms. Anderson, you stated that you had looked for these documents and there are none. This is concerning because on September the 3rd, City Manager Boyer sent the council a memo stating that, and I quote, through a series of documents, the information details the city agreed upon regarding the water main extension in 1999 to be installed between 3 to 5 years. When I asked you directly at the October 14th call if you had looked for these same documents, you told me you told this council and the people of Freeport that you had not looked for them and that you had not been directed to. Can you explain to the council why we have a series of discrepancy? Our city manager said we had the documents. You told a FOIA request that they did not exist. And last week you said you hadn't looked. What are the people of Freeport supposed to believe? Thank you.
Lynn Folgate.
Good evening, City Council members. Thanks for allowing me to speak to you, to our guests, and the TV audience as well. Most of you know I'm Lynn Folgate because I have spoken to you before for our Freeport Moose Lodge, the oldest lodge in Illinois. It was established in 1909. Remember, the Moose supports the Moose Heart, the child city near Chicago. Also know that Moose Heart has provided a home for over 2,000 children since its origination in 1913. I spoke about the Moose Lodge before, this time speaking about asking your help for the Freeport area, for North Carolina that was hit by the Hurricane Helene. Also needing help is Florida's devastation by Hurricane Milton, with over 230 known dead from the recent hurricanes and flooding. The reason Freeport Lodge is asking for your help is due to the many lodges requested special dispensation from Mooseheart to support North Carolina and Florida, devastation costing over $50 billion. Consequently, the officials at Moose International authorized a blanket dispensation so that all the Moose lodges doing care for the cause can do so without separate dispensations needed. Accordingly, our Freeport Moose Lodge Board of Officers want to also do our part to help the hurricane victims of these states. It was decided that we will act as a donation coordinator so that even small donations can be collected and sent to help these states in their rebuilding efforts. To make it easy for everyone to donate to this cause, checks or cash can be dropped off at the Freeport Moose Lodge. Our new address is 440 East Challenge Street, Freeport, Illinois. By the way, I got copies of this because I got other addresses and phone numbers. You don't have to write down. You get a copy of this speech. The Freeport Moose Lodge new location is 1 block north of the former lodge across the street from the Super 8 Motel. It's a white building, and we have a sign up on a nearby post. For Florida, checks can be made payable to Florida Moose Association or simply FMA. If you choose to mail directly to FMA, mail to FMA Post Office Box 2863, Sanford, Florida. I got the zip here. Attention, Dan O'Neill, FMA Secretary. So for more information, you can call Ken Kotzenbader, Freeport's Moose Lodge Administrator. His phone number is area code 815-232-1516, or his cell phone 815-238-1555. Thanks for your attention, and thanks for supporting and help for Florida and North Carolina.
Thank you, Lynn.
Good scratch paper, if nothing else.
And
Stick together.
please note that at 6:23, Alderman Monroe entered. And next on the list
Thank
is
you.
Andrea Schultz-Winter.
He gave me 2 of them. Sir.
Andrea Schultz-Winter, 521 South Harvey, Freeport, Illinois. When we think about the infrastructure needed for economic development and growth, childcare is imperative. Residents cannot go to work if they don't have a place for their child to go. Open Bible currently has 174 students enrolled. 43 children attend their school-age program, kindergarten to 5th grade. The remaining 131 children are aged 3 to 5 years of age and attend their preschool child care program. The demographic makeup of those students are 62% are Caucasian, 37% are African American, 1% are Asian. 49% of those children qualify for free and reduced lunch. 47 families qualify for child care assistance program. Last summer, Open Bible offered safe, dependable child care for 170 children. This allowed families to remain in the workforce while their children were out of school. Birth to 5 is a regional organization that serves Northwest Illinois and has collected data around child care. Currently, there are 5,132 children in Stevenson, Carroll, and Joe Davis counties that are 0 to 5 years of age. Currently, there are child care slots for approximately 25% of those children, or 1,264 children. Data from the Bipartisan Policy Center, dated from 2019, so quite dated, 5 years old, this data. For Stevenson County alone, there was 870 child care slots needed. It is estimated that the annual economic burden of child care gaps within Stevenson County alone is $18 million. This is made up of 3 separate impacts: the loss of income for individual households, business impact due to direct productivity losses for businesses, as well as future lost earnings from turnover cost and inability to take advantage of growth opportunities. And also, lastly, tax revenue impacts, the proportion of lost household and business income that would have contributed to government revenues. Our child care crisis isn't just holding back working parents and their children, it's actively harming our economy. Many Freeport families make ends meet because both parents, are employed outside the home. That can happen when we have safe, dependable child care options. Child care is a necessary infrastructure for our households and our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. And next on the list is Dee Sanders.
Good evening. I'd first like to thank the council for allowing me to stand. I am not Dee Moore, but I am Elder Charlene Williams, and I'm standing here tonight on behalf of the but adding to the sign on Armstrong and State, Bishop James Arthur Wade. We have filed all our paperwork. We have met the 51% requirement. We have been working on this for over a year. Many of you on the city council know Bishop James Wade. He's been a pillar within this community. His children were raised here. His wife was a school teacher. Bishop Wade was a part of the school board. He's a part of the Ministers Fellowship Alliance. And not only that, I'm sure many of you have seen him driving with his truck and wagon trailer where he helps the elderly that can't afford to mow their lawns. And he also helps with other things throughout the community. The funeral homes here in the city of Freeport know him by name personally because when COVID hit and other things happened, he was one of the pastors in the community that would allow those who couldn't afford it to come in and have services there. We have met all of the requirements, and we're simply asking that this petition be granted for us. Thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you, Charlene. So does that mean that Dee, you don't want to speak? Okay. Then we will move on to Jennifer Fuller.
I would like to thank the council for letting me speak tonight. I am the current daycare director at Open Bible Learning Center. I am very nervous. That is why I went into education, because children don't judge you. So please bear with me. A little bit of history. Robert Bush and Irene Bush had First Church of the Open Bible located on West Chestnut Street from 1944 to 1969, when they moved to our current facility at 3800 West Stevenson Street. In 1970, First Church of the Open Bible Day Nursery opened to serve the public. In 1975, they broke ground for a new educational center to provide larger facilities for the Open Bible Day Nursery. In 1999, ground was broken for the new Open Bible Family and Learning Center, which is the building we are talking about. In 2005, Dr. Burles Parker took over as senior pastor and administrator for the Bushes. In 2009, I took over as child care director, and when Burles Parker retired in 2022, Derek Strickland took over as senior pastor and administrator. Open Bible Learning Center is a nonprofit licensed child care center with the Department of Children and Family Services, also known as DCFS. Because of all these changes over the years and the size of our building, we are currently licensed capacity of 217 children for ages 2 through 12. We are open year-round, full-time, from 6:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. We are only closed 6 major holidays. We are open year-round, full-time, for families that have to work and need somewhere for their children to go. After COVID, we decided to close on Black Friday, and now starting next year, we will be closed on Good Friday. Yes, we were even open on a religious holiday for parents who still need to work. License inspections occur every 3 years with yearly monitoring inspections or more with DCFS. Both myself and the pastor handle the license inspections depending on the materials or paperwork needed. At the 3-year license renewal, DCFS contacts the state fire marshal for inspection of the facilities. Violations of any type noted by DCFS or the fire marshal require fixing and corrective action plans for license continuation. Previous license inspections addressed the fire sprinkler system in the capacity that annual tests of the sprinkler system are to be conducted. This was first noted on our 2021 license review from all the paperwork that I have gone through for our previous license renewal. When it was brought up by the fire marshal that there was no water access for the system to be hooked up, Dr. Parker, as senior administrator, was instructed to post a sign on the system at access points so the local fire department was aware they would have to hook up to the system in case of an emergency.
Jennifer, your 3 minutes has expired.
Okay.
Are you close to being done?
I'm close to being done, yes.
Like what, 2 lines? I don't want to.
Okay, I can stop. I can give you guys a printout
That
of
would
this.
be-
I don't have copies tonight,
Sure.
but I can definitely give it.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
And then we have Luann Hayes.
Good evening, everyone. Luann Hayes, 1021 West Douglas Street, Freeport, Illinois. As many of you know, I am with Birth to 5 Illinois, which Andrea referenced a little bit ago. I'm just here for statistics. That's all I'm here for. Right now, in Freeport, we have 646 spots for childcare. That includes Open Bible. We have 2,170 children who need it, ages 0 to 5. That leaves a gap right now, not from 2019 was 500 and some. Our gap now is 1,524. 70% of our kids do not have childcare, access to childcare or daycare. Now, that's here in Freeport, and Andrea talked about the region as well. But we cannot afford, our community cannot afford, throwing stuff around, to lose any slots here, especially in Freeport. I have a flyer for you, and I'm under my 3 minutes. Makes up for all the times I went over.
Thank you.
Oh, I like your top too. Okay. Oh, and just to make it rounded, I like your top too. Okay.
You still have 50 seconds if you want to use it.
I could do a little song and dance.
No, we'll end it.
Okay. I could. Okay.
Okay, last on the list is Ashley Harms.
Hi, all. I'm Ashley Harms. I am from Amity here in Freeport. I also live in Freeport. The address of Amity and the King Community Campus is 511 South Liberty. I know we're competitors, right? Us and Open Bible. I serve on the Birth to 5 committee. We've been looking at these numbers for a really long time, and the state and everybody else is working on focusing on building up childcare. The last thing we need to do is make a center close. It doesn't look good for Freeport. It's not good for our working families. I could enroll double my enrollment tomorrow with my waiting list. I'm sure Open Bible could too. I understand that it is very costly. Everything these days is extremely costly If Open Bible is willing to do their piece and pay from the street to their building like any of the rest of us would, I think the right solution here is to run the line for the kids. It's for the kids, and it's not just for the kids. As Andrea said, and as Luann said, it's an infrastructure issue. Our families need to be able to go to work. We are already struggling to enroll families every day. We can't get them all in now. What would happen if Open Bible were to close and we lost 170 more slots of childcare? How many more employers are you going to have that don't have workers coming in because they don't have childcare? We should be building up childcare. In fact, I don't think it's far off to ask later for you guys to help us expand some of our buildings or to help us do more. This is not the time at all to do less, that I can say. And I hope the right decision is made to save their program. Have a great night.
Thank you. That concludes public comments. We'll move on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature and acted as one motion unless there's a member of the council who would like to have something removed for further discussion. Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of approval to receive and place on file minutes from boards and commissions for foreign fire minutes dated August 8th, the Library Board of Trustees dated September 11th, and the Liquor Commission dated September 12th and 27th, 2024. The Building Permit Report and the Fire Department Report dated September 2024. The Freeport Housing Authority Monthly Report dated September 18th, 2024. The Greater Freeport Partnership Monthly Report dated September 25th, 2024. The Finance Report and Cash and Investment Report for August 2024. The approval of the finance bills payable in the total of $2,836,656.02, and the approval of payroll for pay period ending October 5th, 2024, in the total of $641,274.96. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And Monroe.
No.
Motion passes 7-1.
Thank you. Item number 5 is the second reading of ordinance 2024-54A. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending Chapter 220, Council, Section 220.06, Compensation of the Code of Ordinances.
Thank you. Manager Boyer?
Thank you, Your Honor. At the last council meeting, it was requested to break up these 3 positions into 3 separate ordinances, so that has been done. And I think we're at a position where council should move forward with the direction that they so choose.
And can you refresh what the dollar change or what was given on the first reading for council members?
Dovey, would you have that? Would you be able to go through the minutes on that?
Aaron, or Attorney Zito?
Sure. So for the first item on the agenda with regards to the pay for elected officials is for the city council. Currently, our code provides that the annual pay to the alderman is $3,800 per year. The direction from the council was to increase that to $4,500 per year.
Any further discussion, council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll? Did you have a question, Alderman Stacy?
I'm just kind of lost.
On? Okay. Could you please take the roll?
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Today.
Aye.
Shadle.
No.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
No.
Clem.
No.
And Monroe.
No.
I have a tie, don't I? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4-4. Mayor, what say you?
No. Up to you.
Okay. The council has not received any pay increase for a long time of any significance. I know that this is 18% increase, but the dollar amount's pretty small. It's a very small increase on a yearly basis. When you break it down in the month, it's barely anything. So aye.
The motion passes 5-4.
Item number 6 is the second reading of ordinance 2024-54B. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending Chapter 226, Mayor, Section 226.03, compensation of the Code of Ordinances.
Manager Boyer, did you? I'm sorry.
I have nothing else to add to the previous discussion.
Okay, I believe both the mayor's salary and the clerk's were a 5% increase. Is that accurate?
I pulled- Were these, Michelle, were these 5% increases? Yes, that's right. So what's before you right now, this agenda item is for the clerk, for the mayor's compensation. So it is a 5% increase for the 4 years, each of the 4 years. So it'll go from 29,330. Then in the second year, it will go to 32,030. In the third year, it goes to 33,630. And then the fourth year, it goes to 36,670.
So is there discussion on the salary package for mayor? Seeing none? Yeah, Alderman Sellers?
I guess I was okay with the 3%, but not with the 5. That's me.
She did not hear you, honey.
What?
I said I was okay with the 3%, well, with the first proposal, but not with the 5.
Alderman Stacy?
I did some homework on this. And what I'm okay with is 5% the first year, 4% the second year, 3% the third year, and 2% the fourth year.
Well, it seems we have different opinions. I know that that what was moved forward was the 5%, like was stated. So,
I really
go ahead.
I really thought that week before last, 3% was stated, not 5.
There was a motion.
I concur.
I believe there was an actual motion for the 5% that was motion made, seconded, and then voted on for 5% for both the mayor and the clerks.
And who made that motion?
I believe it was Alderman Clem. But
I'm looking it up.
Alderman Clem said 0 for the mayor.
Hang on, the clerk is checking.
There was a motion to have it remain the same that failed. Monroe moved, Alderperson Sanders seconded that the mayor's salary be increased to 555. The motion passed 5-3.
Well, if there's no further discussion,
Simmons,
What are we voting on?
on
The 5%?
the 5555 as presented upon second reading of the ordinance.
Okay, so if I am not mistaken, we were told that we could come back and buttle that. And so Alderman Sellers just said that she was okay with the 3%, but not the 5, am I correct? So we're not discussing that? So we,
That's what the pause is. I'm waiting for you to tell me what you want to do. Nobody's saying anything.
Right, so if, at this point, you guys are in discussion, so if someone wants to make a motion to change it, to propose a change from 5% to something other than 5%, this, people can do that.
I make a motion that we change the 5% to 5 the first year, 4 the second year, 3 the third year, and 2 the last year.
I second it.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Stacy, seconded by Alderman Sanders, to change the ordinance as how it was moved forward to 5432. Discussion on the change. Okay, I guess if there's no discussion, then Madam Clerk, would you take the roll on passing this, the mayor's package to be 5% increase down to 2?
Nope, that would, it's just on the
Right.
amendment.
On the,
It's just on a proposed amendment
on a proposed amendment.
to 5432. Right.
What does that mean?
You have to make an amendment first.
Right.
We're
So it's
not
just like-
finalizing the
It's not the,
ordinance yet.
well, right now, it was presented to you guys as a 5% increase. There's been an intervening motion now to change it to 5432. That's been seconded. Now looks like there's not any further discussion on that proposed change. So now there's a vote on just the change. If it is approved, then you guys will go back to a vote as amended with 5432. If it fails, the proposed change to 5432, then you're back to 5%. There can be another motion if someone wants to propose something different, or you guys can vote on the 5%.
So could you please take the roll on the amendment only?
Simmons?
No.
Parker?
No.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
No.
Clem?
No.
And Monroe?
Aye.
We are tied at 4-4. Mayor?
I vote no on the amendment.
The proposed amendment fails 5-4.
You don't want to go home, do you?
So because the proposed amendment motion failed, we're back to the underlying, which is the 5%. If someone wants to make a different motion, they can do that.
Alderman
we-
Sanders.
I'm sorry. Can we express it differently? Word it differently? Come to the same conclusion of 5-4-3-2?
No, that's, no.
But if we frame
Vote
it
it down.
a different way, maybe that would be satisfactory to some people or some council members. I don't know. We haven't had a chance to deliberate with each other on
Well,
the
you
discussion.
did. You had a chance to.
Well, I
and
mean,
it was voted down,
altogether,
so you
collectively.
can't bring it back up
Yeah, I
again
know,
for the
but
same thing.
collectively, we have not had that. Okay, that's what I'm trying to establish, because we had not made, that's why we're at the 4-4 constantly all the time. And if that keeps going on, we have to reword something so it would satisfy the council.
So what would be your rewording?
All right, that's what I'm saying. We have not had a chance to discuss none of that. Maybe we should suspend it for.
No, it actually has to, something has to go forward tonight.
Something has to go forward.
By law.
tonight. Yeah.
Alderman Sellers.
I make a motion that we go back to the original 3% that we had offered.
Is there a second?
Second.
So now before you is an amendment to move it to the original 3333. Any discussion on that amendment? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
No.
Stacy,
No.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
No.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
and Monroe.
No.
And we are again tied 4-4. Mayor?
No.
The motion fails 4-5.
You want to go ahead?
All right, so you guys are back to the underlying, as proposed, 5%.
Wow. I'm just speaking out loud. Ignore me for now. This is messing with me.
If there's no further discussion,
Yeah, yeah,
you have something?
yeah, I have something. Well, do I have your attention?
Let's not waste time.
Well, Mayor, we're talking about your wages.
No, it's a mayor's salary.
A mere salary, I put it like that. So we do need to take time, since we don't take time, to come up with conversation or discussions before this event takes place, or this,
Yeah, this is the third meeting we've talked about it.
okay. I have no further discussions.
Madam Clerk, please, no? Okay, go ahead.
I will just, for the council though, I mean, you guys have to come to some conclusion here, because the way that our ordinance is drafted right now, it provides for the compensation for 4 years, the last one being this year. If you guys don't approve something, whoever the mayor is come next term doesn't have a compensation whatsoever. So you guys have to come up with something.
Mine was rejected.
So what's before you right now is the original that was put forward at the last meeting. Madam Clerk, if there's no further discussion, would you please take the roll?
And could you state what that is? 5%?
That'd be correct.
Each year.
That'd be correct.
5% increase each year.
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
No.
Clem,
No.
and Monroe.
Aye.
The motion passes 6-2.
So we will move on to item number 7, which is the second reading of ordinance 2024-54C. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending Chapter 228, City Clerk, Section 22803, Compensation of the Code of Ordinances.
You recap that? It's the same as the mayor package. It was a 5% increase.
Correct. It's also, as it moved out from first read, it was a 5% increase to the clerk's salary. That provides for then in the first year, it'd be a compensation of $58,255. In the second year, it goes to $63,615. In the third year, it goes to $66,795. And in the fourth year, it goes to $72,830, which are 5% increases.
Discussion. Seeing none, Madam
I
Clerk?
would like
Oh,
to
go
make
ahead.
a motion that we oppose 2% each year for the next 4 years. 2%.
Is there a second?
I second it.
So now before you is the amendment proposed for a 2% increase each year versus the 5. Is there anything to discuss on that amendment?
I just have
Yes.
a question. So the original was 4%, right? The original,
Well,
the original was 4% that we first came.
I believe staff's original proposal was 4%. Then council made the motion at the last meeting to raise it to 5%.
I believe staff was 3%.
Oh, I'm sorry,
and I
staff-
requested 4%.
Okay,
Thank you.
Council did 5.
there you go.
so if there's no further discussion, yes, go ahead.
I'd like,
Clerk, City Clerk Dovey, you said it was 3% and then you requested 4%?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't say that into the microphone. Staff's recommendation was 3, I requested 4, and then upon first reading, a council member suggested 5.
Which I believe was still comes back to it was Monroe and Sanders, correct?
I'd have to look it up.
I think it was a whole package done that way. Yeah.
Clem proposed 5.
Can you repeat that, Alderman Clem?
Clem, I proposed 5 last time.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
What I thought.
So before you is a motion for a 2% amendment. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the 2%?
Could I have discussion?
Oh, sure.
Could I? Okay. Please keep in mind that this is one of the positions that has really changed over the years in the amount that the person has to do. We've gone from 0 gaming license to 40 gaming licenses. We have, I don't know how many liquor licenses, and I'm sure in the 60s at this point, that this person all has to handle, plus has to have everything ready for every meeting, and you guys want to demand that they have a draft agenda out 3 days before it normally used to come out, and you're not offering to give her any kind of raise or compensation for doing that. I just don't think that's right.
Thank you, Alderman Clem. Alderman Stacy?
Let's also keep in mind that this year it was approved for a part-time worker, helper, part-time city clerk to help City Clerk Anderson. So let's keep that in mind.
Could you repeat that? Because I can't hardly hear you. I'm very sorry. The system is absolutely terrible. I hated to say that, but it's absolutely terrible.
I said, let's keep in mind, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Let's keep in mind that it was approved to hire a part-time city clerk to help City Clerk Anderson out with her duties. Let's
Madam
keep
Mayor?
that in mind.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Alderman Clem.
am I correct in saying that the person that assisted her before just retired and that person took that position? There's been an assistant that worked back and forth with the person that works with the mayor and the city manager and the city clerk for a number of years. It isn't as though it happened yesterday, so she didn't get any big bonus of hiring somebody.
Respond to Clem, or?
His knowledge on the part-time. He's referring to Luann retiring.
Yes, I just had a retirement in the office, so I'm training. So I have a brand new person, so my helper will be trained. I guess I don't understand what Alderperson Clem was saying, I guess. The new person is not to be a backup to the assistant to the mayor and city manager. The current deputy clerk does that. If, and a budget has not finally been proved, it has been recommended in the budget, but I don't definitely have a part-time person. But as I will agree with Alderperson Clem that the workload has increased greatly. This year we also have had, by the end of September, we had more Freedom of Information Act requests by the end of September than in any year since I've kept a FOIA log. All through, through December, by the end of September, the FOIAs were higher. I'm getting behind in typing closed session minutes. I'm about 4 years behind on that. And I am behind in filing. So between me, a full-time clerk, and a part-time clerk, those duties would be redistributed to include backup to the assistant to the mayor and city manager.
Yes, that good explanation. Thank you. Alderman Stacy?
Am I wrong in thinking that we approved for a part-time city clerk? Did we approve?
Well, it was discussed in the budget, but nothing's been approved in that. That was for the 25 budget.
But is it something that passed?
The budget
Director Richter?
hasn't passed, though.
Director Richter, can you answer that?
So, actually, the conversation was, and I might give you more than you want to know, but both Dovey and I talked together, and we were going to ask for a full-time person. I backed off and a little bit, and I've also talked to Dovey about, I don't know if her half-time's going to make it through. We got a lot to go with the budget yet, and as they said, it hasn't been approved yet. It is something we very much need, Dovey needs, but when it comes to some of the other priorities that the budget needs, that might not make it all the way through.
Okay, so I understand that the budget has not been approved. However, was getting her a position helper approved? Did we discuss and talk about her receiving a part-time city clerk?
Was there, so you're asking if there was an ordinance that was, no, it was discussion in budget. Manager Boyer, do you want to add to that?
As I understand it, we had basically an additional position that was going to split 50-50 between the finance department and the city clerk. The finance department looked at it and said, I'm going to withdraw my request, but I think we still put that in the budget for the city clerk. The budget hasn't been passed yet, but the intention is to have a part-time person.
The intention is to have a part-time person.
Yep.
And also, just for recollection purposes, the current term I'm in, I had an increase of 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%. This was set at a time during COVID when we were freezing public works wages. If I recall, I asked the finance director, non-elected people, non-bargaining during that same time got 2, 2, 4, and 4. A comparison of other clerks were also given, and I am paid lower than any of the 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 municipalities. Dixon has a population of 15,000. Sterling has a population of 14,000, and I still make less than them. I don't know how many deputy clerks they have. If you do increase this position, and not me, I do intend to run, but think of it as a position. If you can increase this position by 5, 5, 5, 5, I believe someone did a calculation and it would add $10,000 more than what you were given. Adding $10,000 onto me, I still make less than the 10 municipalities that you were given as comparisons.
So before you, council, is an ask for an amendment of 2, 2, 2, and 2. Any further discussion on the 2? Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the amendment for 2?
Simmons. No. Parker.
No.
Stacy,
Yes.
Shadle,
No.
Sanders,
Yes.
Sellers,
No.
Clem,
No.
Monroe.
No.
The motion fails 2-6.
So now before you, council, is the original that was put forward the last time you met at 5.
Simmons,
I think Alderman Stacy might had something she wanted to say.
I didn't know it either.
I am not wanting the 5. So, since my 2 failed, do I have the right to make another motion? I make a motion that we just go 3 across the board.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman Stacy, seconded by Alderman Sanders to do 5%, I'm sorry, 3%, 3, 3, 3, 3. Discussion on the 3. Madam Clerk, please take the roll on a 3% increase.
Simmons,
No.
Parker,
No.
Stacy,
Yes.
Shadle,
No.
Sanders,
Yes.
Sellers,
No.
Clem,
No.
Monroe.
No.
The motion fails 2-6.
Okay, so again, before you is the 5555. Any further discussion? Yeah,
I have a point of clarification.
sure.
From the discussions earlier, could someone answer how many years we've employed a deputy clerk? Because I don't remember not having one.
Know that?
Yes, from 2017, when I started. I was the first full-time deputy clerk. Prior to that, there was a part-time on occasion, or the clerk at times would appoint a deputy to see some duties through or to take a vacation. But going back through the files, there's a deputy clerk signature on many, many files as one was needed. Michelle, do you have more recollection than that, or is that pretty accurate?
No further discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
No.
Stacy,
This is for the 5%? No.
5%.
No.
Oh, I thought it was still talking to 4%.
Okay, let's clarify what the motion is.
So the underlying, this is on the underlying 5. Okay?
Okay. Can I change my?
And remember, something has to pass tonight, or there'll be no salary set for the clerk's position. So before you is what the original was at 5555.
I'm sorry. I thought it was 4%.
do you want me to start over?
Yeah. I'll vote yes.
I will start with Simmons first. I'll start completely over so we're even.
No.
Parker,
Yes.
Stacy,
No.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
No.
Sellers,
Yes.
Clem,
Yes.
Monroe.
Sorry. Yes.
Let me see if I have enough here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses. The motion passes 5-3.
Okay, let's move on to item number 8, which is the second reading of ordinance 2024-55. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving revised lease with Illinois Central Railroad, also known as CN Railroad, for Brick Street Water Treatment Plant.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just following up, part of the old Brick Street plant that was built around 1870 is encroaching on the CN rail yard. For years, we've paid a modest amount of rent just to ensure that they've asked for a modest amount of rent. So the city would like to renew that again this year, obviously, but they have raised it to $2,000. So staff is requesting this council approve the payment of the $2,000 rent for CN.
Is there any discussion on this second reading?
Madam Mayor, so based on Alderman Sanders' request, Communications Director went out and was able to get a drone photo of the area. This is the area in question on the backside of the existing water plant. As you can see, the structure is built right on top of the railroad embedment. Again, this was for years ago when coal was delivered to the buildings. I really don't think we have much of a choice but to approve this until we can have the water plant removed, which is hopeful to have done within the next 5 years. And we've let CN know that we're working towards that goal.
Okay. Thank you for superimposing.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0. Actually, it's the ordinance that passes 8-0.
Item number 9 is the first reading of ordinance 2024-56. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving special use permit for La Guerra. I missed part of the address. 1802 East Shawnee.
Thank you, Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Staff received a special use application from La Guerra Freeport LLC for a restaurant selling alcohol beverages outdoor service at their location at 1802 East Shawnee. And on October 3rd, the Zoning Board of Appeals recommended for approval by a vote of 4-0 with 0 abstentions. The Planning Commission met on October 10th, 2024, and they recommended approval by a vote of 5-0 with 0 abstentions. And there was some discussion at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting between Angelina Dominguez, the proprietor of the establishment, and some members of the public. And normally the after hours outside would be 11 o'clock, but the owner agreed after talking with some of the neighbors that they would close their operations at 10 o'clock. So that's one of the conditions that was imposed through that. So that being said, though, staff in line with the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Commission is recommending approval of this, there's 2 recommendations here. We are recommending approval, but the proprietor has also has asked for a suspension of the rules. They have a large party. I'm sure you've seen the advertising signs, November 2nd. So they're looking to help with their business, move this along with the suspension of the rules. So staff is making that recommendation as well as approval.
Okay, so before discussion, I need a motion to move this ordinance to the second reading.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Rowe to move this ordinance forward. Is there discussion on the ordinance?
Yes. Is the closing at 10 p.m., is that going to be written into?
Yes, that's what we're proposing. We propose that, and normally other communities do conditional use permits as part of their special use permits. That's not not typically done, but in this situation, based on what came from the Zoning Board of Appeals, discussions with the public, staff is recommending that. That's just one of our recommendations as part of this.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The owner approached me whether a special permit was required for this, and it's not because it's on private property. It's not on city property. Will that 10 o'clock closing be for any outdoor event or any time their outdoor patio area is in use?
That's in conjunction with this special use permit. It's a condition based on this serving of outdoor alcohol.
So it's not just that one event?
No, it's for this, and for their special use permit is for outdoor, serving alcohol outdoors,
At any
and
time.
that's part of all of it, yes.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yes.
Alderman Simmons?
So is that the same for the bars downtown that have outdoor seating?
It's different. They have an actual there's a parklet application. Is that what it, and I get them mixed up, but there's an actual parklet application they can do. So this is a little bit different. It's on their property. I put up their property here. You can see they have a large property. And obviously it's different than a downtown location.
So I have a follow-up question. So if they were to, I'm familiar with it.
Can you talk more into the microphone?
Sorry. So I'm familiar with the restaurant. So if they were to fill out the same permit that the other restaurants downtown that have the same sort of setup have, would they be allowed to sometimes stay open later?
Well, it's different. What you got going on here is they don't even have a sidewalk here, so they wouldn't even be able to do and put something in the right of way here, like a set of tables and picnic benches. I do want to be clear, the property, the neighbors came in and had a discussion at the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the proprietor, Ms. Dominguez, she said that she would close at 10 o'clock. So that's per her suggestion she said that. It wasn't staff imposing it. She said that she would close. Staff actually said to be in line with our regular ordinances and do 11. After talking with the public, she said she would close up at 10. She agreed to do that.
Alderman Stacy?
Where is the water?
You see the red line here?
That's the water.
That's right, correct.
Okay, where are they talking about putting seating?
Well, I'm always careful about this, Ms. Alderperson Stacy, because it's not technically part of this approval process. And I've said, we've been down this road before. You're not approving where they're going to have their alcohol served. But what I'm being told is it's going to be in this area here. That's
the grass area, like kind of behind the front of the building?
Correct. That's what I'm being told. Yeah. I got pretty stable hand. I actually it's not I was told it's going to be in this parking area here. So I apologize, Alderperson Stacy, but it's going to be in this parking area in here.
Where is the front door?
It's over in here. Sorry, I'm a little, a little
because
shaky.
there used to be seating on the opposite side of what you're saying.
That's what, again, and I want to be clear, I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this because this is not part of, basically it's a blanket approval for them to have an outdoor to serve alcohol. So I don't want to get too far in the weeds on that,
Okay.
Because you're not saying, well, I approve it here or approve it there. It's a blanket approval.
And what if they what if they didn't close at 10? Would that be a violation?
It would, and essentially what would happen is, right, the neighbors were here and they said, hey, you agreed to close at 10, and so if they start having parties at 11 or midnight, I can guarantee you the neighbors who talk to them they're going to be the ones calling, saying there's a noise violation, and then that would be up to the officers who went on site to assess the situation and proceed accordingly with noise violations.
Alderman Sanders?
Also, will there be any safety rails or safety protection or?
That's not part of this. This is a simple zoning approval that basically says, can they serve alcohol outside?
Okay.
That's not part, that's not part of this.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about the fact that if that property is exposed to the public at any given time, is there any safety guardrails?
Sure. I will say if your concern is safety, you can vote on this however you see fit. I just know that when it comes to what they can do on their property and zoning wise, we don't take into effect, the guardrails and things of that nature. So I don't want to mislead you down a path that was part of this zoning process. This is,
yeah.
Yep.
Well, my thing is we need to reassess that whole idea of allowing that particular kind of zoning take place when we're serving alcohol and whatever going on like that without any fencing or guardrails or whatever the case may be. I think it will become a hazardous to the adjacent community But that's my concern. That is something that I can foresee that might happen in that particular part of the area. So, you know, I'm looking at the whole spectrum of it.
Madam Clerk, would you want to chime in to?
Sure. The liquor sales portion is overseen by the Liquor Commission, and they also have an outdoor application submitted to the Liquor Commission, and that they provided all of that on the drawing, and the Liquor Commission approved that contingent upon whether council believes that this is an appropriate use of outdoor liquor at this location.
Well, all of the things that I just said factors into that equation. And the fact of the matter is, we don't have a lot of detail information in regards to any of that because we're exposing that property to the general public and without any safety guardrails or anything of that nature that the community or the neighborhood or whatever that's out there is subjected to. They could be intruded upon, unwelcome visitors and things like that to that community area. So my thing is, have we taken a look at that whole
Yes.
concept?
Yes. So when it comes to zoning and land use, and this would be land use in this situation here, in order to serve alcohol outside, your first step is you have to get the zoning for it. In this situation, or in the city of Freeport, you have to have a special use permit. And the special use permit looks at and also provides the members of the public an opportunity to come and speak. And actually, in this case, it went above and beyond where members of the public said, hey, we think this could be a noise issue. We think you should close early. And the owner, the proprietor said, okay, well, yeah, I can do 10 o'clock and agreed to do that. So there are situations for the public to say, here's what we think. And that's a large component of our zoning process. So I do want to be clear that this was contemplated. There was staff time put into this, and it was presented to a zoning board of appeals and a planning commission. All that being said, it's up tonight for your choice to decide if you disagree with the zoning board of appeals and planning commission. That's your right to do so. But in working on this application, working with the owner for months on this, I think she's done her work. She's done her due diligence. She's presented to the public. She's been working with the public, and I stand behind the recommendations of the zoning board and planning commission.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Clem?
Madam Mayor? Yes. Just keep in mind that I was a building and grounds person at that particular address for the VFW for a number of years, and I know special uses don't go on with the sales, but there had been a special use for outside dining and in the same area and that stuff for the VFW and also for Junior's Place before that. So it isn't as though this is the first time that anybody's looked at it. And if there is some housing right there, and if the people came and objected and said that they believed it should be shut down early and that agreed, I believe it to be a good decision.
I agree. So we have the motion to move forward to second reading. However, it has been asked by the owners of the property if we could suspend the rules so they can actually do this for their next event, which is prior to the next council meeting. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
So moved.
Everybody.
We have a motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Monroe, to suspend the rules. Suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must pass by 2/3 majority. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the suspension only?
Simmons?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders? Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
The suspension passes 8-0.
Okay, so now before you is the final passage to be able to get this ordinance put into place. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll on the passage.
Simmons?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And Monroe.
Aye.
And the ordinance passes 8-0.
Item number 10 is the first reading of ordinance 2024-57. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending boundaries of the joint Northwest Illinois Certified Enterprise Zone for the operation of an enterprise zone to add Pearl City Elevator Fueling Station near US Route 20 and Wagner Road.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a quick summary. Enterprise zone is a zone set up to help spur economic activity and support business development. The ordinance 2024-57 proposes an expansion of the joint Northwestern Illinois Enterprise Zone involving collaboration between multiple jurisdictions. That is the City of Freeport, Stevenson County, Joe Davis County, City of East Dubuque, the villages of Hanover and Alena. This amendment aims to incorporate an additional 8.57 acres of contiguous land into the existing enterprise zone, pending approval from the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, or DECO, and relevant local governing bodies. The expansion increases the zone size from 13.5017 square miles to 13.515 square miles. Project, the Pearl City Elevator, Inc. is acquiring the property at 9432 West Wagner Road to build a fueling station and convenience store. Project cost estimates at $4.5 million, with a net savings to the enterprise zone incentives. Over 40 years, the project is expected to generate approximately $5.6 million in property taxes. The fuel station is positioned to attract tourism and business traffic along Route 20. Job creation and includes the project will have 8 full-time jobs with an estimated annual payroll of $400,000 a year, 7 part-time jobs with a payroll of $240,000 a year. Construction will generate 15 temporary jobs, contributing $200,000 in payroll to the local economy. And the fueling station will support regional agriculture through the use of ethanol and corn oil products at Atkins Energy, sourced from local farmers. The enterprise zone expansion requirements. All enterprise zone benefits will apply to the expanded area except for properties within a TIF district where property tax abatements are excluded. Approval by DECO is required for to finalize the expansion. And if passed, the ordinance will be submitted to Gary Quinn, Zone Administrator, for inclusion in the DECO application. This ordinance will become effective immediately upon passage of the publication, and staff requests council approve ordinance 2024-57. It is in alignment with our strategic plan, strong public-private partnerships. The public and private partnerships are aligned to create clear value for the citizens of Freeport and its partners. We work closely with local, regional, statewide economic development partners by aligning our work with shared resources.
Is there a motion to move this forward?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion on the ordinance. Alderman Stacy?
Can you tell me, how do this project help us?
This project is in support of our other communities that are in the enterprise zone. As you can see here up on the screen, originally when the enterprise zone was set up, the property owners of the yellow striped areas were not wanting to be part of the enterprise zone. They've apparently been acquired by new owners who want to set up the truck stop, and they're requesting those 2 parcels be included with the enterprise zone. So it benefits us by supporting our local partners in economic development and future expansions.
How do this project hurt us?
I'm not aware of how it hurts us.
Okay, do we make money off of the gas tax revenue?
Yes.
Yeah. Were we told that that money would get us qualified grants?
I'm sorry, just to clarify, we make 2% gas tax on our fueling stations within city limits.
Isn't this money currently paying for our street repairs?
No, this is Pearl City.
Okay,
That's Lena.
I'm sorry, Lena.
so what is it gonna cost us to support that project?
Nothing.
But we're supporting something being built.
Attorney Zito knows where you're going with this. He'll answer it.
I think I do. So this,
Can we have the light on so I can see you?
so the enterprise zone, when it was originally created, it was done through an intergovernmental agreement with multiple municipalities, right? Because the enterprise zone is bigger than just Freeport. It extends into, Lena, Pearl City, whatever. But it was an agreement that was done by all those communities that set the boundary, right? That extends bigger than just Freeport. So if it ever wants to be changed, because there are, let's just hypothetically say there were 5 entities that were a party to that agreement that created the enterprise zone, if we ever want to change it, all 5 communities have to agree to change it. So now one of those communities, Pearl City, has asked, because they have Lena, has a proposed development that the developer is asking, hey, can I be included in the enterprise zone? And so Lena is now saying, okay, we think this will be a benefit. We were asking for everyone to agree, all the other communities to agree to expand the enterprise zone boundaries to include this additional property here. Does it hurt us? Probably not. Does it benefit us? Probably not, other than, maybe general rising tide raises all ships. But I think where the benefit comes in is, or what we're doing in being a partner with our surrounding communities, is there may be a day one day where we are going to ask, because there's a development in Freeport that is not within the enterprise zone, and we're going to ask, hey guys, can we add this into the enterprise zone, this property that's in Freeport? And we're going to look to our partners, and we're going to need their blessing to add it in. So that's kind of probably the bigger picture. I don't know if that answers your question, because I think you're kind of doing a pro and con. There's really not, it's not really that. It's really about they need all 5 of us to agree to amend the boundary. So that's why they're asking.
Director Duckman?
Yes, I also want to add, Alderperson Stacy, we went through this for the city of Freeport with the Meadows Mall project. We had to redo our boundary to incorporate that. And so we needed the approval of Lena in that process. That was 2022. So you're dealing with regional governance, correct? So the argument there is people come together, you're working together, but you're taking advantage of, example, sales tax abatement for construction materials. And if you're in this situation, you have a project that just happens to be surrounded by enterprise zone. And since it's regional governance, it's local municipalities working together to have a benefit in development. They need to work together to say, does this make sense? And obviously that's what's being voted on here. But to Attorney Zito's point, we were in that situation a few years ago with the Meadows Mall development, and we had to do the similar project where we had to redo that legal description. I wrote the legal description for the Meadows Mall project, so I remember fondly adding that boundary to the enterprise zone. So it is a situation where we are working with other communities in this situation. We aren't exactly benefiting directly here, but we've relied on each other in similar situations.
Andrea, is there something addition that you have to add to that, or is
So the only thing I will add, and I think that we talk about benefit, thank you for Director Duckman, Manager Boyer. It was a great explanation as to what the enterprise zone is and the process that we went through 2 years ago to add the Meadows Mall that facilitated the redevelopment there. Pearl City Elevator is a large employer. Many of their employees live in Freeport. Also, Pearl City Elevator takes grain from area farmers. That grain is then often sold to Atkins Energy, which produces ethanol, which then will be sold at the gas station that will be nearby. So when you think about the idea that, yes, it probably will affect some Freeport City residents because they work, they are farmers themselves, or they work for Pearl City Elevator, they will benefit by having their company be able to expand and diversify their business portfolio. So when you think about it that way, it is a benefit to people of Freeport. It's not going to cost the city of Freeport anything. And I think to Attorney Zito's point, it's a way of working with our regional partners, other governments, to spur economic development activity within the region. Thank you.
Alderman Monroe, did you have your hand up?
I do, Madam Mayor. I'm going to ask a question. Who owns the land? Because right now I'm looking at it. Part of the land is owned by Pearl City Elevator Incorporated. The other land is owned by Old Mill LLC. Do we know who the people are that are involved in those zones?
Andrea?
The Old Mill LLC, that parcel was purchased by Pearl City Elevator. Both parcels are now owned by Pearl City Elevator.
Okay. Follow up?
Sure, go ahead.
Awesome. So the proposal is to put in a large truck stop. Is that what I'm understanding?
It's going to be a convenience store and truck stop, yes. Fueling station.
Follow up. So we've been here in Freeport trying to get that same type of opportunity built here. It does seem a little bit perplexing that, we would lose nothing. I would be willing to bet that we would probably lose gas tax revenue as trucks and vehicles bypassing Freeport, which the bypass in its name has done to us for many years. So there is I would put almost a net negative on the opportunity that's going into the Lena area. Do we need a truck stop west of the Rockford area, west of Winnebago Corners? Absolutely. Where do we put it? That's been the question that's been asked for a lot of years. I know that there's been talk off Springfield Road. I know there's been talk on 26. There's been discussions even at the west connection of the Business 20 bypass area. And, my concern, and I think a lot of people's concern in here, and I know they're dancing around the subject, is that will, without question, mean a significant amount of traffic will bypass Freeport and not get gas, because really the only place to get gas after you pass Winnebago Corners is Stockton. And so people are kind of forced to go into the towns and get fuel, get food, get supplies, things like that as they drive west to Dubuque or wherever they may be going. So that is a concern. You did make a lot of good positives, but I think you're not making enough light of the negatives that come along with that.
There is potential opportunity that's lost, right? Opportunity cost. But right now, Pearl City Elevator, based on the proximity they have to their existing facility, this is why they chose the location that they did. And I can't tell you today that if you said no and you voted this down, then that means in 6 months you're going to get a truck stop developed off of the bypass. So, I think that we need to look at the greater good, working with our regional partners. It is likely within the next year that I will be in front of you again asking for you to approve an enterprise zone boundary expansion to facilitate other development within the city of Freeport. I'm going to have to go to our government partners asking them to do the same, and they might ask the same thing of me. Why would I want to agree to do this? Because it might hurt our municipality. I think we need to consider the idea that yes, this is the city of Freeport, but there are many people who don't work here, that they live here, that there are boundaries that we cross every single day, and that we need to think about this in terms of the regional good as well.
Alderman Sellers?
Yes, I'd like to, with the job creation that you read, City Manager, the 8 full-time jobs and the 15 temporary jobs, is that all for, is it Lena or Freeport, or who, are these all new jobs, or are the?
I'm happy to answer that question
Okay,
unless
go
you'd
right
like
ahead.
to. They referred to construction jobs, and those would be, they're looking to use area contractors. So I would assume some would be Lena, Stevenson County, Freeport. I'm sure they'll draw from Freeport as there's just more contractors coming from Freeport. In terms of the full-time and part-time positions, I think it was 8 and 7. It depends on who applies for the position, right? It could be anyone from Stevenson County. It could be a Lena resident. It could be a Freeport resident. I'm sure they will not have that barrier on that application.
Okay. And then I'd like to, maybe if we could get the answer for Mr. Cook without proper direction, and if you could clear that up so that we can understand his question.
Boyer, he's the city manager.
So my understanding of the items that Attorney Cook referenced here, he was looking for just some citations to some previous ordinances that, created the original enterprise zone. So to reference ordinance 123 back from 2000, whatever, there. Again, I don't think this ordinance as written necessarily right now is deficient. Do I think that his points that he brings up could add some clarity, some additional information, make it more robust? Sure. So I mean, if the council wants, I can certainly add some references into this draft of the ordinance. So
I would only add that this is the same model ordinance that we've used for every enterprise zone application that we've put in front of council. Same model ordinance was used for the Meadows Mall.
Okay.
Alderman Stacy?
I would like to make a motion that Attorney Zito add the needed language to the ordinance, and we bring this back to the November COW for further discussion and understanding of what is actually being said and asked of us, and further discussion at the COW, and then it can appear on the agenda the third week of November.
So if that's a motion, I'd need a second.
I
That
made
fails.
a motion that this be taken to the COW,
I second it.
and that Attorney Zito add whatever needs to be added to the language.
So we have a second on that? Okay, so you have a motion before you for adding the language that's been asked for, and then to move it to the November COW. So is there
Madam Mayor?
discussion on that motion? Alderman Clem?
Madam Mayor, is there a time element on this involved?
Andrea?
I would like to move it all the way through all units of government by the beginning of December so we could submit this by the end of the year to DCEO. This is the second unit of government that is already
Right.
that we're at. East Dubuque is reading this ordinance and resolution tonight as well, and we held a public hearing Friday where there was no members of the public who came in opposition to the project.
No one in opposition?
Correct.
And your opinion as far as changing the way that we put language in there, is that going to be any hindrance in future things within Freeport to do that?
Well, I think that might, since all units of government have to have the same ordinance and resolution, it require me to then send out a revised ordinance and resolution to every unit of government. Lena has already passed this through their village board, so they would have to approve and pass a new resolution and ordinance.
So there is a possibility that this could
Correct.
not make the cutoff.
Correct.
Alderman Stacy?
I don't think that whether we make the cutoff or not is the most important angle here. We, as the council, need to understand what we are saying and what we are doing. And if we're asking for additional information to make it appear better, sound right, then I don't feel that it should be denied just because it may delay your date as into when you would like to see this prosper.
I understand that it might be appearing as it is my date, but I am working in response to a business that's looking to expand, and has already expended money to get this development underway by purchasing this property.
Okay.
In an effort to be responsive to business, move at the speed of business, to create a business-friendly environment for Northwest Illinois, to increase the level of economic development we have here, I think it's imperative that sometimes when we ask things to happen, I'm happy to meet with anybody one-on-one to answer any questions you have about this project, the enterprise zone in general. But delaying this, the project, they will not break ground until the state of Illinois approves this enterprise zone. The longer we delay, the more money it costs this company.
Does one person's opinion really have that much weight? I mean, this has been the way that these enterprise zones have worked forever. One person's opinion to change the whole thing. Alderman Sellers?
And I think that's what I was getting ready to say. I said, this is just the only reason why I asked for this to be clarified for this one person. But if you already said that you had a meeting and no one showed up to disagree on the job and the whatever I'm trying to say.
You had a meeting when?
They had a
meeting when?
Friday morning in our office, public hearing. There was a notice put in the Village Voices that ran. We did everything per statute.
Everything is done per statute, and things are threw at us, and we want them now. And then you expect us to make right decisions for our city and for our constituents when you know doggone well we don't have a clue of what all this is saying or requiring of us. And all this commotion comes from this concerned resident. And so, again, I have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. And Attorney Zito, I don't know how long it will take you to make those additives to the ordinance.
Well, your motion is to add it to the cow, which sets it back even further, and the discussion is how that's going to impact all of the other enterprise zone partnerships. So
Well,
the bottom line
language
is, do you want economic development in our region?
The
That's really what this
language
is about.
alone will delay that.
But I guess it's just one person that's really complaining. Not complaining, but one person that doesn't understand it. So the only reason why I really did ask about getting clarification is because the one person, I just wanted, if he needs to go to them to ask them, then he can do that, but it is.
But we don't understand it. We don't understand it as a council.
Manager Boyer, you want to shed some light?
Alderman Stacy, I just wanted to reiterate that I am available from the time you get the agenda till the time council meeting starts. If there's a question on anything on that agenda, I will make myself available and have always made myself available. So I just want to reiterate that. I did not get a single call about this. And all we're asking for is first reading. That still gives us 3 weeks, 2 solid weeks to review and get all our questions answered. Then we can come back to this thing on the 4th and get it moving forward.
So let's go back to the what Alderman Stacy put on for a motion of adding language and moving to the cow. That particular motion itself. If there's any further discussion on that motion, if not, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on moving it to the cow with the added language?
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
No.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
No.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
No.
Clem.
No.
Monroe.
No.
The motion fails 3-5.
Okay, so now back to the original that has been put out there for moving it to the next regular scheduled meeting. If there's no further discussion, we'll move on to item number 11. Alderman Parker?
This here is basically a routine thing they all do. They want to build in our our county, and we're going to benefit from it. So I think this is pretty routine and do it. Do we need a motion to move this on?
No, it already is being moved to the second reading, so.
I think it's
Alder-
pretty routine.
Yeah.
I would like to know why this same number 10 and number 16 you asked earlier at the beginning to be moved. Are they the same thing? or what
No,
is-
not exactly the
Oh, okay.
same, and it's a procedural thing. Attorney Zito, you want to shed some light on that?
So my understanding is that this item right now before you is to amend the ordinance that designated the boundary. So there was an ordinance originally that designated the boundary from however many years ago there. Now, that's step one. The resolution is that there's an intergovernmental agreement between all those municipalities that also has a boundary in it, the same boundary. So we have to update both.
We have to
But
get
on the second
ordinance.
one, but on the second one, we don't actually have the amendment drafted. That wasn't anything that was attached, so that's why. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Stacy?
So will there be language added to this ordinance, yes or no?
It has not been a part of any motion.
That's the only question.
Oh, and because I made the motion, it failed.
So what's before you is moving on to the second reading at our next council meeting, the way it states. And if you have questions about things, Manager Boyer said you can contact him at any point on any agenda item.
Well, after it leaves here tonight, it's irrelevant.
What's irrelevant?
Mayor. Well, tonight is just first read, so this is an ordinance, so it's still going to come back before you at the first meeting in November for second reading.
So if the discussion is done, we'll move on to item number 11, which is the first reading of ordinance 2024-58. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending newly revised building code to 2018 ICC additions.
Director Duckman.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So on August 5th of this year, the City of Freeport adopted the 2018 edition of the International Code Council building codes. And so upon a review of the ordinance that had passed at that time, staff determined that a few additions needed to be made in order to address all of the items that were agreed upon by the Building Commission. And so this proposed ordinance addresses these items. And so, example, because there's a few mostly typographical, clerical errors that were in this ordinance that's being corrected. But for example, one of the bigger ones is that there's a fuel and gas code, which is essentially your appliances, gas stoves, hot water heaters, furnaces, etc. When we originally passed this code, we were under the understanding that this was incorporated in the mechanical code. It's not incorporated in the mechanical code, so we have to pass this ordinance to make sure that when people our contractors are installing furnaces, hot water heaters, etc., they're following the fuel and gas code. So that's one of the highlights of this ordinance. There's a few other clerical changes that were made. So staff is recommending moving this ordinance forward.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move it forward?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion on the ordinance. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 12, which is the first reading of ordinance 2024-59. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving 2 airport farm leases with Matt, Phil, and Will Kemple and Dan Julius.
Thank you, Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Honor. Staff has been working and meeting with all the farmers that are interested in engaging with ag leases at the airport. We've got 3 of the farmers set up here. We've got 3 in hand, and we'd like to move forward and get council's approval on those. The Kemple lease is 4+ acres, will generate approximately $150 an acre. For a total of $610.50 annually. The Julius lease of 3.21 acres will generate $150 per acre for a total of $481.50 annually, so staff would like to move forward with these leases.
Is there a motion to move these forward?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Is there discussion? Alderman Stacy?
Are these the farmers that we're paying? Is this the farmers that we're paying?
I don't understand your question. Are we paying the farmers?
No.
No, she wants to know, are those the ones that have actually paid their amount? Darren?
These are ones that we're not paying that did not realize that they were renting this area. This is the north area that's by the lighting system, so it's kind of a grassy area that really doesn't have a lot of crop value, and is realistically the entrance to both of those fields.
Is that what you were looking for?
It has no crop value?
Not much, no. It's, like I said, it's right off the north end of the light system and a very small acreage. A matter of fact, they can barely turn equipment around in the little acreage that they have because it's kind of a narrow path with the light system that gets them down to the field. So the other leases are coming. We just met with the final person last week, and their attorney's reviewing it, but the rest of them are coming shortly.
And how did you come up with this price?
I believe these are the exact prices that were discussed at the council meeting a month and a half ago, something like that, that we did the crop evaluations. There's other ground that's going for more, but this ground is really not that great of ground. I think the highest rent that we have out there, I think it's 2 1/4 an acre.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It is a 3-year lease too.
If there's no further discussion, we'll move this on to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And this is 610 for the entire year? And 481.50 for the entire year.
Annually.
And it's a 3-year contract, so times it by 3. That's the income for the city on those couple of parcels. If there's nothing further, we'll move on to item number 13, which is the adoption of Resolution 2024-109. Could you please read this?
Resolution authorizing and approving a software renewal from Ferguson Waterworks for AMI Neptune 360 utility software.
Thank you. Director Sutton.
Hello, Council. This is an annual agreement we do with Ferguson, who's the vendor. Neptune is the actual equipment provider. It's for our automated water meter reading software platform, and this is the annual support contract for it. It's for $34,133.26, and it's already in the budget for this year.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion on this resolution. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem. And Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Item number 14 is adoption of Resolution 2024-110. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving placing an order for a replacement fire engine.
Chief Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week at the COW, we had a long, detailed conversation about our vehicle replacement plan. We indicated that our current engine 1 will be due to be downgraded to reserve status in 4 years. And then last week, we also talked about the 4-year wait for an apparatus to be built and delivered. And also, we discussed the pricing of the vehicle. So by placing an order to be delivered 4 years from now, we'll avoid a November 1st price increase and also subsequent increases in next February, May, August, and November, which will save the city over $92,000. And it seemed that there was overwhelming support in placing that order for a 4-year delivery last week. And so the only question that was raised back last week for today's consideration was, what type of financing should the city consider taking advantage of? A 100% prepayment option was available, a 50% prepayment option was available, or pay for the entire vehicle at the time of delivery. So this past week, I met with the finance director. We looked over the account where this would be funded by. We also looked at anticipated expenses coming up. We both agreed that a 50% prepayment discount would be to the advantage of the city, yet still keeping adequate funds available for any subsequent and anticipated costs coming up with the next calendar year. So tonight, we're seeking the approval of council to adopt a resolution to place an order for 4 years from now.
Thank you, Chief. So what's before you then, Council? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution for placing the order?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Any discussion? Alderman Monroe.
Madam Mayor, this is one of the most egregious requests I've ever seen come in front of us as a council. Having brand new equipment every day, having brand new gear, brand new everything, when similar size or larger communities are getting by with significant less spend. I started doing some research on this. I will tell you, we talk every year, and I've been a big proponent, big backer of the fire department. I think they do a lot of great work, but I think the chief has overextended himself. And I started looking around, and these types of requests, we just bought a brand new ladder. We bought a brand new engine. We bought 2 new ambulances. We got a grant for one of them. And we've replaced so much gear and equipment since I've come on the council. It's time to seriously look at cutting back and saving money. And yes, voting this forward is just another way that, several of our council members want to just continue to tax the people of Freeport into oblivion. I will tell you 2 communities, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, 36,000 people. They have 17 full-time firefighters, 65 paid-on-call firefighters. They have a brand new fire station. They have all of the gear. Geneva, Illinois, 24,500 people serviced, 20 full-time firefighters, 46 paid-on-call. And they have lots of great equipment. And every year, this fire department comes back and asks for more and more and more and more. And they can't stop. And it's time that we as a council say no. These are multi-million-dollar spends. It's sitting here looking through earlier, the fire department's budget for this year is over $6 million. And we have so much infrastructure that needs help. What are you going to run a fire truck to when the infrastructure under the streets doesn't work? The pipes break. We can't handle the water pressure. We're just now getting to a point where my water doesn't break 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a year. And it's time to get real and have a conversation. Just because you're going through the checkout line at the grocery store doesn't mean you need to get a pack of candy every time you go through for your kids. The same thing's true for the fire department. Okay, I'm sorry it's a 4-year time frame to buy a new engine, but we can make do without it. But if this is the direction we're going to go, then I think we need to look at cutting other parts of the fire department. And that comes down to saying no to this or looking at other options. Because the way I average this out, about 18 or 19 firefighters full-time, and then 46 to 70 paid-on-call firefighters, we could do something along with Freeport Rural and save this city millions and millions of dollars, and we would actually catch up on getting the roads, the infrastructure, the water, the sewer, the things done that we need. And most of our calls, and I sat and I watched, I actually went around. I heard the fire engines a couple times, 2-3 times in the last week, and I went. It was an ambulance call, and there was an engine sitting right there with the ambulance every single time. And so I started thinking about what are these calls? And I know this is a little bit long and kind of hard to understand, but we take this equipment that we spend millions and millions of dollars on, and we run it all over the city. We go to Cub Foods to get groceries. We go all over the city to help the ambulance out. And at some point, I can't sit back and say, it's okay. It's not okay. We've got 3 ambulances. We've added multiple firefighters. We had grants to add those in. And now we're asking for another, and let me get my numbers right. I've got to open it back up on this app. Million plus, I'll say. Let me pull the proposal up. Thank you, Madam Mayor. $1.2 million. And quite honestly, you want a brand new engine? Cut it out of your personnel and payroll. Start looking hardcore at what you've got. You're going to about 3 fires a month, and most of those aren't really real fires. I'd venture to say we maybe do 1.5 on average house fires or building fires in the city of Freeport a month. And quite honestly, the amount of money we're spending to do that is absolutely preposterous. And, I see Freeport Rural, I see some of these other departments around the area, they're able to do it with much less money and to budget it much better. We can't be adding these costs to us every year. We're still paying for the ones that we got, and we've got to make sure we're doing the right thing as a city. There's no way I'm voting yes on this.
Chief Miller?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Alderman Monroe, I appreciate your emotional response here. However, there's a lot of facts you're not aware of. Our operations, I'd be happy to sit down with you and explain to you how the fire department runs, because you have no clear concept on that right now. So you talk about these other agencies that have brand new stations, brand new equipment, part-time, volunteer. They don't have the call volume, they don't have the violence, they don't have the responses that we have here in town. So, and then to address your remarks about our equipment, we just replaced of the new engine that we received. We just replaced a 31-year-old engine that had no useful life left in it. The ladder truck that we replaced that you cited, that was 21 years old. You could not get parts for it. We were dumping good money after bad into that vehicle. It was falling apart. In my presentation to justify replacing it, there was a big sign on the door, this vehicle's out of service. That was for 10 months. Now, if we had a structure fire in Hosmer, Lincoln Towers, or anywhere else, there's a high probability we would not be able to effect any rescues off of balconies. So I consider myself the subject matter expert with regard to the fire operations. I'd be happy to sit down with you and explain that at great detail so you'd have a better understanding. So this engine that we're looking to replace, you seem to support it at the finance cow when we talked about fire. It's 14 years old now, 4 years from now it'll be 18. Typically they go into reserve around 15. And then we're going to put it in a response reserve mode, so it'll still be available to us. So I think this is sound fiscal management of finances. I'm showing how it's paid for. I'm showing the cost that it's savings. And then talking about, the streets and things like that, the city takes 54% of fire ambulance billing and puts it in the general fund. So that money is also being recycled back into the general fund. Fire department's the only department that brings in revenue and assists with the day-to-day costs of running city services.
Alderman Shadle?
Just to reiterate that, the money for this is coming from those ambulance fees. And second of all, I don't want a truck or an ambulance to break down on the way to my parents' house or mine. Thank you.
Alderman Stacy?
Chief Miller, you were saying, what did you say again about the 54%? Did you say 54% or 54 what?
I said 54%. So each year, at the end of the year, Finance Department looks at the revenues brought in by the Fire Capital Improvement Fund. And by ordinance, 54% of those revenues are transferred over to the city's general fund.
And what are we as a city doing with that money?
Manager Boyer?
It goes back into general fund, and we use it from everything for paying payroll to buying materials.
Okay,
And that's not new. That's been set by ordinance for
I
quite some time.
understand that. But originally, when that account was created, was it created for the fire department to have the monies they need to do what they need to do? Or was it originally created with the idea that the city would take 54% at the end of every year?
It's changed over time. Michelle, do you have specifics on that?
No, I was just gonna look up the ordinance and see how old it was.
Because maybe we need to look at the ordinance and do something different.
So that's probably off topic.
Oh,
So you can, if Michelle, when you have that answer, could you put that out there so we have that knowledge? Okay.
so the city is that dependent upon that 54%? And you said for wages?
It goes into general fund and is used from soup to nuts.
Any, yeah.
One more question. Go ahead, go ahead. No, I was just gonna ask, this replacement fire engine, what station would it go to?
That'd be going to the Park Boulevard Station. And that vehicle there is a smaller ladder truck. And as a cost savings measure, we're seeking to replace it with just a pumper, fire engine, not another ladder truck. So an example, that the brand-new engine that we just received, we ordered in 2022. That came in just under $900,000. That same vehicle, with the same equipment, same build sheet on it, 2 years later is $1.2 million. It's gone up $150,000 per year for a total of $300,000. And this escalation of cost is what we're trying to avoid. That's why it's before you tonight.
And Chief Miller, you were saying that this vehicle right now that you want to replace is 14 years old, you said?
It's currently 14 years old.
And you said the average time limit is 15 years, you said?
For frontline use, approximately 15 years, depending on condition and use. So if it's run hard and, not maintained appropriately, it could be less. But we've got a real good maintenance program, and we're looking to keep that vehicle in reserve status, a functional reserve, so if a second ladder was needed, those personnel would jump from that engine over to the short ladder truck and respond in that. So it would still have a useful value to us. But by doing this, would extend that useful life.
And then one more question. And then you did talk with the finance director on it was affordable. It was with the 50%?
Yes, she was comfortable with a 50% prepayment discount, which would reduce the cost of the vehicle by $61,456 on top of saving the $92,000 of anticipated price increases.
The funding will be at a later date. This is just about the approval of the order. Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief, how many times has that ladder been run into the building?
It's 3 times.
And how much were the damages each time?
I'm not familiar with what the invoices were on that, but it has been rebuilt and it's gone to the factory, so it's been factory certified. Additionally, our aerial devices and our ground ladders have to be certified and tested annually. So it's in good working shape, but that's why we're looking to extend the useful life of that vehicle.
Manager Boyer?
Chief, could you also just let council know a worst case scenario if we had an emergency need for funds, can that order be canceled?
Yes, being that it's a 4-year build time, so we could de-obligate ourselves from that purchase up until when we have the meeting for the pre-build, which is about 9 months before it goes to construction. And after that, if it was actually on the assembly line and we tried to cancel, then there could be a 30% penalty. But that's if they can't sell it to another agency, which is why we're at 4 years, because there's a waiting line. But we're trying to avoid all these subsequent price increases.
Is there any further discussion?
I'd like to make one more comment.
Sure.
I just hope the water lines can work because we have zero tanker trucks. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have hydrants. We don't have tanker trucks.
Mm-hmm. So if the water pressure goes off and the line breaks, the hydrants don't work. Is that correct? Since I'm not a subject matter expert.
It could be correct, but we have mutual aid agreements with other agencies, providing they have personnel that can respond to us during daytime hours. And our vehicles have 750 gallons of water, and a tender, they're actually called tenders, have up to 3,000 gallons. So based on our fleet, we can sustain our water flow until neighboring departments can come and join us.
So follow-up question. So with water being such an important piece, when city lights went up, which was a very large fire, were you on the department at that time?
No, I don't even know where City Lights was.
Yeah, it was downtown. Huge fire. Unbelievable. I would guess that millions and millions of gallons of water were put on that fire. I can't even imagine the building went to the ground. But my point is if the infrastructure can't handle the transport of the water to the hydrants, which is becoming a bigger and bigger issue in this city, the fire engines and ladder trucks, you can have all the great equipment in the world. You can't get enough water to them to affect really a meaningful attack on a fire without huge support from our rural communities, which they always come to our aid. And I believe the bigger issue we've got moving forward, or have it revolve around the ambulance service. I think you and I probably would agree on that, because the rural agencies just don't have the support and the qualifications and the training to keep their departments running. And it's being harder and harder to find people. I think this is well-intentioned, but I think this is very misplaced money. And I'll leave it at that, Mayor.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the adoption of Resolution 2024-110?
Simmons?
She stepped out.
Oh, I am so sorry. She is currently absent. Parker?
Aye.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
Aye.
Sanders?
Aye.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem? And Monroe?
No.
The motion passes 6-1.
Item number 15 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-111. Could you please read this?
Resolution ratifying emergency repairs to wastewater treatment plant raw sewage pump and engagement of Precision Drive and Control, or PDC.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Recently, the wastewater treatment plant influent pumps, which are the main pumps that convey the raw wastewater through the treatment process, one of them catastrophically failed recently. The city maintenance crews pulled the affected pump motor and found that a bearing had catastrophically failed, causing the commutator to impact the stationary magnets inside the motor. This requires an emergency repair. So having gone to PDC, the cost of a full repair is $25,489, and that is compared with the cost of a new pump. Unfortunately, this is untimely, being that we're in the process of work on our headworks, but it does highlight the fact that the headworks is very old and in degraded condition. So staff requests support from the city council for the PDC invoice for the pump repair of $25,489.
Is there a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion. Alderman Sanders.
Manager Boyer, those pumps that you're referring to, do they have a scheduling for maintenance? And do we have a maintenance crew that, if it is scheduled before anything breaks down, is it being maintained on a schedule basis, monthly or whatever the case may be? I don't know how you do your scheduling, but is someone out there as a routine to look at the situation, to have the city not to be spending these expenditures if we have a maintenance department that actually look into those kinds of areas? Because I know they, from what I understand, you have to keep the bearings you're referring to that needs to be replaced and things like that. And then if we had someone in there to maintain those kinds of things, we wouldn't be asking the council to, well, I know it gets old, I know they get old, but the thing about it is if they kept up the maintenance, those machines, those pumps will run for years, decades, if we had someone to maintain it. Do we have any staff people?
Manager Boyer.
Yes, we have an excellent maintenance staff. They do maintain all the oils and bearings and maintenance that's required on these pumps. So there was apparently some type of material defect in the bearing that caused it to fail prematurely.
Okay.
But I do believe the pump has been in service for years on top of that. So.
Okay. And we do this routine scheduling for maintenance on a regular basis. What would you say, monthly, every 2-3 quarterly, or whatever?
Well, we maintain it based on the manufacturer specification.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Mayor.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem. And Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Item number 17 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-113. Could you please read this?
Resolution designated honorary street name of Bishop James Arthur Wade Way to Armstrong Avenue.
Thank you. Director Duckman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the honorary street name program allows residents the opportunity to honor those leaders that are steadfast in their endeavors, making significant contributions to the city. Once approved, the sign will be displayed at the requested block, commemorating that leader's dedication and hard work for the city within the city of Freeport. Bishop James Arthur Wade has been a resident in the community since the 1960s, and when he heard his calling to minister, he answered and has been serving his community for close to 50 years. He founded the Faith of Miracle Deliverance and Worship Center. He is known for his faith, caring for the less fortunate and counseling those in the community seeking spiritual and secular guidance. And as we heard earlier, the public has attested to that. Bishop Arthur Wade is known in the community for his innovative and profound teachings. So Ms. Dee Sanders Moore approached the city of Freeport last year and has been working diligently to do all of the work to bring this act to fruition. So staff is recommending approval of this resolution, and there's 2 pages here, or essentially I'm going back and forth here to kind of show where this sign is going to go. So on the first slide, on the first slide, we're going to kind of go here. You can see that this is Armstrong and this is South Street. And this star, there's a star here, but I'm pointing it out. That is the corner where we're going to see the sign. And if you go to the next page, this kind of shows that intersection They're adding an honorary sign right below this sign. So that's what is before you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion on this resolution. Alderman Sanders.
I'll wait. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, I just want to say the street sign Armstrong, would that also be part of the Bishop Arthur Wade
Yeah.
sign? That sign would be posted, but Armstrong would still be in
Yes.
place? Okay.
Yes, Alderperson
That's
Sanders.
what I-
It's
that's
an
what-
honorary sign will just be underneath it.
Okay, got you. All right, thank you.
Alderman Shadle.
The church next to PDC, is that the Reverend's Church there? No?
No, the Bishop Wade's church is out on Baileyville,
Yes. To the
south.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where does Armstrong, because I just wanted to know, and where Armstrong and Baileyville Road intersect? Or
In
south.
In the city limits, it's Armstrong. In the county, it's Baileyville.
Right.
So that sign postage would be where the Barco car lot, that's where that is, Barco, and then there's a cemetery there.
Right, okay.
Then you cross that as Baileyville.
Yeah.
Right there would be Baileyville.
Baileyville is south of there.
So excuse me,
It's the same street.
same street. Okay.
One is county, county can't call streets the same name as the city, so the city has its name Armstrong, and then this is County Road.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem, and Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted unanimously, 8-0.
Thank you, ladies. Item number 18 is the adoption of Resolution 2024-114. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving engineering agreement with Fair Graham to create Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, transition plan, and compliance inventory.
Manager Boyer.
I'm going to yield my time to Director Darren Stiegler.
Good evening. This is the item that we discussed at the COW. This is the ADA transition plan that's required by IDOT. It's part of our MFT agreement. It's required for communities that have more than 50 full-time employees and over 20,000 people. We delayed this as long as we could this year, looking for some type of funding to create it, but we were ultimately not successful to get funding. Our desire is to get this moving. It will be due before next year's allotments, and I would like to get moving on the survey and topo that needs to be done within the city before snow flies, so we can write the plan during the winter months. I believe the agreement is for $81,750. The vast majority of that is field survey time, along with writing the plan. And with that, I'll take any questions. Again, this is MFT gives us about $1 million average per year. So this is one of their requirements that transitions plans must be created. We must create a transition compliance team, if you will, or commission. And we also must have a grievance policy when we're done. So we'll do the inventory, create the plan, and then we'll bring a plan back to council to adopt. And then that plan will be posted on the city's website for anybody with disabilities to research, look at, create a grievance, and then we'll have a committee that will review those grievances. And I'm suggesting that we don't budget any funds for 2025 for these grievances, because by the time we get this adopted, we have street work going next year. But the following year, we will probably have to start budgeting some money for grievances to address situations that the committee may find need to be resolved.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion. Alderman Sanders.
Public Works Director Darren, while you're making these plans over the winter, if the survey allows you to, while you're in the process of doing so, is it okay for council members to visit the planning stages of when you guys begin to do the drawing of the plan, so we have a little insight?
So this is different than a construction plan, so there won't be a construction plan. This is more of a study and an evaluation. So we'll actually take robotic equipment out and do the measurements on the field, corner by corner.
Okay.
And so you're welcome to see all that data when it's done, because it's going to turn into a giant clip down menu per corner.
I can wait until you condense it.
And I think I skipped it in this one, but this is going to be a living document for Freeport. So once it's created, as we do construction work every season, we'll have to update it. It shouldn't take near as amount of work to do it, but the GIS system itself will need to be updated as they're corrected in the dates that they're done. What IDOT's looking for is for the city to come up with a 20-year transition plan for all the ramps. As I've stated before, that's probably not ultimately affordable, but we are making great lengths with the amount of street work we've done. I believe this year alone we did, I think it was like 82 ramps. So, and I think the year before we did 76 just on the ramp project. So we've made some great strides in a short period of time, and we're committed to doing the ramps as we do the streets, as long as they're not technically infeasible. When we run into vaults and things like that, we just can't afford to fix a ramp at a vault area. They get really expensive fast.
There's no further discussion. Oh, Alderman Monroe.
Yes, Mr. Stekel, as you're going through this, are we going to be looking at various grants that are available, to help? Because this is significant. Last I remember, you said about $7,500 per, rough estimate. But we're going to be looking for grants to help cover that, because we have to replace all of them in the city, correct?
Yeah. So as we do the street projects, we'll we're incorporating the ramps into the projects and using a combination of the 1% and MFT money to replace ramps. But this will also give us the ability to do like we did with the CDBG grant and take blocks of areas that are underserved and try to get more ramps done in quadrants with that kind of money. I believe the grant that we got 76 done on was about $500,000, and we have plenty of target areas in Freeport that we can utilize that grant money.
Perfect. Thank you.
Alderman Stacy.
When you say combination of the 1%, you're talking about the 1% for our streets?
Yes, ma'am. That is part of every street project that we do in Freeport. If they have ramps, we have to update the ramps as part of the street project. That's not something that we have a choice with. The only way we can't update them is if we give ourselves a variance on them and we have to prove that it's technically not buildable.
I thought we had discussion on that matter, and that it was said that grant money would cover ADA ramps.
I don't remember that piece. We don't have grant money to cover every ramp. We had the grant before that covered 76 of them, but this year, the ramps that we did this year were part of the street program.
Okay, so how much is it for the city to do it, the city crew, compared to somewhere else? Someone else?
I would say it's definitely cheaper for the city crews to do them if we can.
What does that mean, if we can?
If we have enough staff to do them. Currently, we do not have enough staff to do the work we're doing and do ADA ramps. ADA ramps are very time consuming. And out of the construction process right now, that's one of the skills. Can we do them with help? Yes. Can we do them effectively and efficiently? No, we just don't have a dedicated concrete crew that can go around and do ramps currently.
Manager Boyer.
If we had the crew, what would it cost the city compared to paying someone else?
I would say right now, if I put a number on it, probably about $4,000, $4,500 per corner compared to the probably $6,500 to $7,500 we're paying. Depends on, each corner is a little bit different with the, how far we have to go back on sidewalks.
Manager Boyer.
Alderperson Stacy, right now, the 1% does not allow us to pay wages from it, and that was purposeful, as I understand it. In addition to that, our crews do ADA ramps from time to time. However, they did do some on Center Street when we did Center Street. So we do them when we need to, but yeah.
Okay, the 1% was never meant for wages. The 1% was meant for our roads.
Exactly. That's why we can't hire more staff to do them less expensively. That's one reason.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem. And Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted, 8-0.
Item number 19 is adoption of Resolution 2024-115. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving agreement with Fairgram for 2025 street design engineering services.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The City of Freeport is prepping the design plans for reconstruct for the 2025 street program. The city plans to use a combination of funding, including IDOT motor fuel tax, the 1% street fund, and Congressman Sorensen's water main funds for this year's road program. Current identified streets were brought forward from the 1% layout approved by City Council in 2024. The 2025 projects include 3 linear miles of roadway and is estimated at a total cost of approximately $5 million in local work. 4 streets need water main replacement, including Carroll Avenue, and that's from 1882, Blackhawk Avenue, 1954, and known poorly constructed material, and Willow Avenue, 1956, and Harvey, 1925, with all the breaks or water quality history. So, in general, that's what's moving forward for water main replacements. Street planning requires professional design, engineering, and surveying services. Fairgrounds scope of service will include topographical study, street profiling and structure design, ADA ramp, intersection design, permitting requirements to the EPA, IDOT, and PROAG standards, along with bidding, solicitation, and negotiation of all contracts. An allowance for geotechnical services for pavement and ground borings is provided by Fairground to a third-party professional geotech agency as needed for design parameters. It is important to the design process that street and ADA topographical and borings are picked up before winter weather to keep the project timelines moving in an early summer project start in 2025. It is also vital to get potential utility relocations identified with NICOR and ComEd franchise partners, not to slow the progress during the construction season. And staff is requesting moving forward with the contract with Fairgram in the amount of $396,250 so that the 2025 street program can move forward. And there's a list of the projects that are identified.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion on the resolution. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons. Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem. And Monroe.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted, 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 20 is ratification of approval of a bid. Could you please read this?
This is ratifying a bid opening on May 22nd, 24, Ridge Street and Westwood Avenue.
Manager Boyer.
During the project, the Ridge and Westwood Avenue project, staff received 3 bids for Ridge Street and Westwood Avenue improvements. Helm Group or Civil Freeport, Illinois was the lowest responsive bidder in the amount of $983,845.50. This bid was below engineering estimates. The water and street project was planned in the 2024 budget, and the project funding will come from water, streets, and storm funds to complete the project. It's staff recommendation to City Council to move forward with the Helm Group bid.
Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons. Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Abstain.
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem. And Monroe.
No.
The motion passes 6 to 1 abstention.
Item number 21, could you read the next approval?
This bid opening was on October 16th, 2024 for sewer lining.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The City of Freeport has nearly 130 miles of sanitary sewer in the collection system. During annual project evaluations, cure-in-place lining locations are identified to rehabilitate sanitary sewer piping with cracks, defects, inflow and infiltration issues, or sags in settlement. Our EPA mandatory CMOM sewer capacity management plan requires specifies that the Freeport addresses annual sewer rehabilitations, our collection system mainline piping for environmental concerns. Sewer lining is considered an industry-accepted method for sewer main pipe rehabilitation, and it is more economical than open-cut excavation methods. Sewer lining is over 10 times cheaper to install, and industry standards estimate over 60 years of sustainable, useful life will basically come from the lined pipe. In October 2016, Fairgram and the city staff had a public bid opening for 9,509 linear feet of sanitary sewer lining. These sewer areas are identified as Oak, Chicago, Iroquois, as of a section of Dirk and Grove. The city had 3 reputable bidders that specialized in sewer lining submit bids. National Power Rotting was the lowest responsive bidder at $382,712.24, significantly under the engineer's estimates. City staff requests City Council to approve the National Power Rotting estimate as the low responsive bidder. And just FYI, this is just following up our current road program. We're just a little behind on this part of it, but it was budgeted.
Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Sellers, seconded by Shadle. Discussion? Alderman Sanders.
Manager Boyer, how are we doing our data gathering to determine how much lining that is necessary throughout the city, and are we inspecting those deteriorating lines, sewer lines, to determine who gets what in certain sectors of the city, as far as rehabilitation is concerned? How do you come about your data to determine this kind of program for liners to come in? And then on top of that, are these is this project up for bidding? Yeah, you says up for bidding. We're looking for bidders to come in and circumvent that. Okay, and well, I just wanted to know that because we're doing an investment of lining if we don't get the right bidders who can do a professional, efficient job at doing this kind of work. That's all I had to comment on.
Just see if I can answer that question. As you know, having worked in the utility a long time ago, you know we have really good records on the material type and locations of all our sewer mains. In general, we have a large percent that's clay.
Mm-hmm.
The clay is, we line the clay. If it's concrete, we'll evaluate it. If it's plastic, we don't line it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that pretty much did it. Well, can I come back? Are we doing a visual
Yes.
inspections?
Yes, we do a camera inspection of every street that we repave.
Okay.
So we'll, like on Iroquois this year, we had I want to say a 200-foot cave-in on Iroquois that had to be fixed before we did the road work. We did that.
Okay.
But then we lined it.
Okay.
All of it, so.
All right, thank you.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle, Sanders,
Aye.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem, Monroe.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0.
And Madam Clerk, if you could read the item number 22.
Discussion and approval to establish an ordinance providing for the submission to the electors of the City of Freeport, Stevenson County, Illinois, a binding referendum question of whether to provide public funding for a 12-foot water main extension to Open Bible Daycare located at 3800 West Stevenson Street to be placed on the ballot at the April 1st, 2025 consolidated election.
Alderman Stacy, did you want to take this?
This has been all over the place with information, truths and untruths. And at this point, I feel that it's only fair and just that the people have say-so over this project happening or not. If we have $1 million to give a private organization, then I hope we can match that in our street fund. Our taxes went up 1% so that we could get streets fixed. And are you saying that we have $1 million somewhere that we can just give for a project that should not be our responsibility? I don't know. Do paperwork exist, or if it don't exist? I guess that's neither here nor there anymore. Mayor Getz said it all when he came and he spoke at the mic, and he indicated that nothing never came to the council. Nothing hit the council floor. Nothing was addressed to the council. So if Open Bible really felt, wanted, expected the city to house this $1 million project, why didn't they come correct? Why didn't they do right by the council? We didn't have city manager then. We was full-time mayor and council. And that never happened. And I just don't feel that tax dollars should be taken from our constituents to fund this project. And I feel that the people of Freeport should have say-so in that matter.
Okay, so there's a few things that I'd like to say on the topics that you just said. I have absolutely no idea what the untruths are. Maybe you could bring those to us so we could address whatever those might be, because I don't know any of the untruths. And as far as people having a say-so, that's the responsibility of the alderman to hear what their constituents are saying. That's why you were elected to that spot, to hear what your constituents say. And as far as giving a private organization $1 million, that's not true. We're not handing them $1 million. We are obligated to our constituents that live within the city limits. Doesn't matter which side of town you live on. If water is a need for you, then we are obligated. To say it's not our responsibility, I don't believe that that's true. And as far as tax dollars being taken, we are working daily on trying to find funding. So there's no tax dollars being taken. This is no different than, any street project out there. We're going to be spending over $1 million on Carroll Street next year. Do you think that should have to go to a referendum to see if the rest of the people want to do that? So the responsibility lies with the alderman to make the decisions of what's best for the whole.
The tax, 1% tax, was taken for our streets so we could do the carols, so we could do the locusts, so we could do the Iroquois, so we could do the Dewey. We were taxed for that. This is not a community. This is a business.
Actually, it's one business, 11 residents, and Highland.
However, the residents are not asking for this.
Well, there are a
You went from saying water main for open Bible to now west of Stevenson Street. No, let's just keep it real plain and simple. It's a water main you all want to put in for open Bible. Not the community, not the constituents, because they're not asking for nothing.
Alderman Clem? Well, that might be a question to Attorney Zito.
So, as far as the referendum question goes, let me answer the first question. Alderman Stacy, you had asked what's the deadline for having the council adopt a resolution or ordinance in order to place a referendum question on the April 1st ballot. The deadline is January 13th, 2025. Okay. So that's the deadline that the city council, if you guys were to want to put something on the ballot, that's when we would have to adopt the resolution or ordinance by. With regards to whether or not that referendum should be a binding referendum or an advisory referendum, the research that my office has done leads me to believe that this referendum would not be a binding referendum. It could be an advisory referendum, but it would not be a binding referendum based off of the research that we've done as to what the case law and the statutes say. So ultimately, if the council did want to put this to the people, it would just basically be to gauge the temperature of what the people want there, and then you guys would still make a decision as to whether or not to move forward with it or not there.
I know several hands went up. I'll just start over here. Alderman Parker, and we'll work our way around.
One thing is, this is something our city officials 25 years ago agreed to. The city was obligated. The city did nothing. And now all of a sudden it's come up again. And my concern is, regardless of what we do here, if we don't commit what we're supposed to do and take care of city and people with their water where we supply to the other 20,000 people, they're going to take it to court, and we're going to have a judge, no matter what we decide or the referendum, a judge is going to order us to do it anyway. So I think it's sad. We're right, we don't have the money, but we've got several young kids out there every day, and none of us want to see any of them die from a fire or anything. So I totally agree. We got to fix it, and we got to do it as soon as we can. Thank you.
Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This goes back to the conversation I just had. $1.2 million for a fire engine, $1 million for a water line out to a school. This 174 students currently enrolled. They have a max enrollment of 217, and there is a lot of room for daycare, and that's all walks of life. That's all people of Freeport. This is helping families who can't find daycare elsewhere. Daycare is one of the most expensive things out there for a family, a working family, to provide support for. And it's harder and harder every day. And we've got to do the things. Look, I hate this as much as you guys do. I wish it was done. I wish it was taken care of, but it wasn't. And I am disappointed that, somebody's feet weren't held to the fire, excuse my, connection here, sooner, because this is something that should have been done. And I asked a question a couple of years ago, where did all the money go over the last 30 years? And I've never gotten a good answer. Matter of fact, I'd like to see line items of where the money was spent, but we only go back to about 2017. Before that, we can't even get accurate, clear information of where this money has been spent. And that's a problem. And now we're going back 25 years, which who knows where documents and emails or whatever may have gone. But we have to look at, this is a nonprofit. Am I right? This is a nonprofit? Is that?
Right.
So, we're not talking about a for-profit business. We've got another one on the west side of town that needs water, but that's a business. That's a profit business. This one is not, and this one really is geared toward children 0 to 5 years of age, that kindergarten, even up to 5th grade. And, they really want to have more students come out there. I don't know if a lot of people know what they do there. Until a few years ago, I didn't know what they did. But it's something that we've got to figure out. It does provide water to other entities. At first, I thought it was a little bit ridiculous, the cost. And then I talked to Mr. Steekel about that, and he kind of filled me in on where the cost was going and how much it typically costs to do it. But getting that water to the school does provide a great service for the citizens of Freeport. And that's where we really have to make a judgment. And quite honestly, I think if this goes to referendum or if it comes from this floor, the answer is going to be the same from the community. Let's get this done. Let's figure this out. Let's find a way to make it happen and go from there.
Alderman Sellers?
Oh, okay. No, I know that in the beginning, I was more just trying to figure out the responsibilities of all the people that were supposed to take care of this 25 years ago, and, it didn't happen. But I did go to Amity. I did go to and talk to different people that I knew in the community about the situation. And I do agree, it is children and it is families that need to have somewhere to take their children. And I do know that there's a lot of children that are on waiting lists to get into daycares. So my first answer was, what are they going to do to help us? And I still would like to know, is not Amity, but Open Bible also trying to look for financing to help with the situation? And I know that we already spent the $69,000 on putting the plan together, but I do know that it is something that we do need to have more daycares. And I do know, talking with Ashley Harm, that they would even like to build more on to Amity because they don't have the room. So my heart would feel heavy knowing that these children don't have anywhere to go to be protected and have somewhere to be. And I know a lot of people, that's what they came to me with, is where would the children go? Where would these families have parents that, you don't have anywhere to send your kids, so you can't go to work. So I do understand that. My big concern is I would also like to just see Open Bible do some type of also grant looking at to try to help us as the city. So I am in agreement with us trying to help Open Bible and the other people that live on Stevenson Street to have the water so that they can have clean, fresh water like everybody else does. So I do understand the concern. So that's my point of view.
Alderman Sanders?
I just want to find out, when does the city become liable to non-for-profit organizations? I heard the testimonies and the reasons why, but we're not social workers, and we're not the kind of organization or community who's going to put something in place and then tax the taxpayers and put this burden on the taxpayers. And that's what the general conversation is considering, without looking at the burden that the taxpayers have to endure when all of these things try to take place. Now, I can understand why the referendum was proposed, because there's been a lot of negative understanding about how we should go about something that the taxpayers are not liable for. And we're trying to dress it up as if though we don't know about the past 25 somewhat odd years that the city, the fire marshals have been put on notice to validate this place because they had been in violation. That's the whole purpose of us having this conversation. If we're going to allow one organization to receive that kind of money for service rendered for a non-for-profit organization, even though I understand it's for the sake of the children and whatever the case may be, but everybody in the city don't have the same opinion as our council members does. And so the thing about it is, we're going to exclude the opinions and the thoughts of the people, the constituents of the city, and then put ourselves in a religious type or spectrum. If we're trying to do that, then we're failing the people. For all of the ones that are not part of non-for-profits, the ones that are not part of churches, one does not believe in the things that these types of organizations are doing, we're putting them in a situation, making them liable to spend their tax dollars on a program that they're not in tune with. So my thing is, if it's going to happen for one non-for-profit organization, and other non-for-profit organization want you to address their problems and issues and whatever the case is, are we going to be committed to do that for these particular non-for-profit organizations with taxpayers' dollars? And that's where I draw the line at, because the city, from what I understood all the time that I've asked for support, I was told the city does not support non-for-profit organization or any organization when it comes to funding for some entity. Now, this is what I was told, and when I think about this, I'm saying to myself, well, I wanted to make an impact within the city, but the funding does not allow me to do that when I ask for donations from the city itself. I can't even get a donation from the city to make an impact with all of the taxpayers who want to be a part of an event to make a difference within the city of Freeport. Well, I was told, no, that cannot happen. Well, here we are again, someone coming to the podium asking for this kind of consideration. And the first thing I'd like to know is, are we going to talk about all of the violations for years that this one particular organization had been involved in? We never got around to any of those kinds of things. And then for someone to present to the council as if though there's a paper trail that has been involved for I don't know how long, but we have not been introduced to these kinds of things. There's no introduction to the paper trail of the liabilities, first of all, being discussed with the council. The council has not discussed this matter fully, and there's nothing to document it. So my thing is, which direction are we going with this? Because you can't do for one and can't do for the others. And you can't take taxpayers' dollars to take and use it for non-for-profit organizations. And I was told that you can't do that. And I'm sitting right here today wondering why we're even having this discussion. That's what I would like for somebody to reverberate the fact that I couldn't do it for Mr. Sanders. Why am I doing it for the Open Bible School? You know, if that is the case, then we need to look at this thing a little bit closer, because it bothers me and disturbs me if we decide, or everybody is trying to voice their opinion about it and be swayed by the council to push this thing through, because we're talking about over $1 million of taxpayers' dollars. And we cannot look our constituents in the eye and ask them, was that okay? How you feel about that? And that's the reason why the referendum was proposed, to give the people, the majority, to look at the situation here and hear the thing out, because everybody in the city does not see the views and the opinions of everybody in the council. That's
Okay, so I'm going to try to answer what I think you're asking. So we cannot and will not show favoritism towards one entity. We will treat every single one alike. When every constituent, every existing business, however you want to look at that, is responsible for taking the line to the water main, and then they're responsible in hooking that up. It's no different. So that's what they would be responsible for. So we're not treating them differently. We're not handing them $1 million.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
No, we're not.
Your argument fails on that
No,
point.
we're not handing them $1 million.
Yes,
We
if
are
it's being
obligated to
considered,
all
that is what
constituents
is-
to
because
provide
the
water.
taxpayers have not had a say-so in the matter.
Well, their say-so comes to you
I know,
standing for
we're
whatever
saying-
they
we're-
have.
And we're arguing, we're having this argument for the constituents of the city of Freeport, so they know that we're in correspondence with the laws of this city and how we conduct ourselves when it comes to doing one for one and one for the other, differently for the others. Yeah, this is what the argument is. And if we're saying that, well, it's okay for us to just chunk out $1 million to run a
Well, we're not.
water
So,
main.
Darren, you want to say something?
It's my turn, yes. Yeah. So, just want to bring this back to what I think is common ground or clarification. 2 years ago, we replaced all the water main on Laurel Street from Park up to Lincoln Douglas School. It was bad, and that project was $1 million, and it was defective water main that was aged. And so nobody had a problem with that project. That's feeding water within our, let me finish. It's feeding water.
It does not. Yeah, well,
no different than feeding.
It's irrelevant for
Be
what
quiet,
you're
Mr.
talking
Sanders.
about.
You don't have the floor.
I know I don't, but it's irrelevant.
Then comply
for
with
you
the
to be
rules.
Bringing that. You're not complying.
You need to be quiet, or you can excuse yourself.
Well, I'm not going to excuse myself. I just
Back up your chair.
I like fair justice to be done.
Yeah.
Darren, finish.
So anyway, my point is we replaced infrastructure that needed to be replaced. We've been doing this for the last 7 years in town. Next year, we're going to replace more water main that's defective, Blackhawk Street. We're going to replace Carroll Street. We're going to replace Willow. We've done some water main on Dewey Street. It's our responsibility as a community to provide the public water service to our constituents. We are not just supplying a line to Open Bible. They happen to be a result no different than Lincoln Douglas School being able to have the water supply. If the main wasn't there, they wouldn't have been able to have it either. So it doesn't bother me either way. I'm just throwing facts out there. The facts are that we build mains throughout town within the city limits to provide service in the city limits. If a business went out next to Open Bible, we would not let them drill a well. It's against our code. So what will we do at that point? We still have to provide the water main on the street or the sewer main to get to those locations, and they are within the city limits. So while this is a bad pill to swallow, this is the point of doing main replacement all over town. It's an investment. It's a costly investment, and it takes lots of time to get back. That investment is no different if it's on Carroll Street, if it's on Laurel Street, if it's on Stevenson Street, or any other street in town. It's the same dollar of investment.
We're gonna move on to Alderman Shadle. It's his turn.
Thank you.
I had a question.
I've been
Yes, and
waiting patiently, Mr. Sanders. I'm going to ask
That
you
might
to
be
just
true.
sit back for a
But
minute.
that might be true, but I had a follow-up.
Okay, Alderman Shadle has the floor.
Well, what's gonna happen to my follow-up?
It's Alderman Shadle's floor.
First off, I have talked to one of the homeowners out there that will get service from this, and he was adamant that he would be the first one to hook up. Looking back 25 years, that church did absolutely everything that the city of Freeport asked them to do to get their building permit. They were told if they were gonna build that church, they had to put in a sprinkler system, and they wrote the check. Have no idea for a fact what money they spent, but I'm guessing probably $20,000, $30,000 that they put out. And we can try to put blame on who said what, but at the end of the day, somebody told that church that that water would come, or they wouldn't have spent that money putting a sprinkler system in.
That's right.
It's just plain and simple. They not only put it in, they put the run to the right-of-way. It's ready for the city to hook up. They did absolutely everything they were asked to do. Somehow, you're thinking that they should have been knocking at our door. Maybe they should have. But at the end of the day, somebody here told them that they were gonna get water, and they didn't get it, and nobody here took care of that. What it all comes down to is we're sitting here and it's up to us. It should have been taken care of 25, 20, 15, 10. It should have been taken care of, but it wasn't. And here we are. And we have a responsibility, and I feel we have a obligation, and we need to get it done.
Alderman Stacy.
Darren, every example you gave was replacement defected water mains. This is not a replacement. And last week, you made a comment that was unfair. If it was on the other side of town, would we even be having this conversation? Alderman Parker, not a city official. Community development person. Not someone that had authority to even say or shake hands. Again, why didn't they bring it to the council? If they were going to do right by the city and expected the city to do right by them, why didn't they come forward and ask the city? Now all you hear about, what about the kids? What about the kids? What about the kids 25 years ago? I've worked with kids at the Freeport School District for 20 years. Yeah, what about the kids? Why are they even still out there? Why haven't they made arrangements with Ackman or somewhere to get the kids out there and still give them what they need? They're still in danger. There was a letter that was rejecting this happening by Blackburn, who came and had his say last week. But he didn't talk about that. He didn't talk about him rejecting it. But he did. There's a church on Pleasant and Galena. And Amity was supposed to move in that church and open up a daycare. However, all that was denied because the water sprinkler isn't compliant. So watch what you're saying. What you do for one, are you willing to do for another?
You do know that we aren't responsible to put in a sprinkler, right?
Alderman Getz came here and he spoke. And he said there is no legal binding contract, nothing that holds the city responsible. Blackburn said, "Oh, I remember the handshake." Okay, you remember the handshake. A handshake don't make the city responsible. And what is the fear in giving the constituents the say-so? This is their tax dollars.
I guess I'd like to say I understand, but I think everybody that came tonight was for helping Open Bible, and we didn't have anyone that came to say no. So I guess that's me. I guess I look for if the people have something to say. I mean, just like we do, or the people that are out there now, I think they should have came and said something, you know, that it's not right or we shouldn't do it. But like I said, my second thought after talking with a lot of people, you know, they understood the process. So I don't see anyone here that is out in the audience or came or said anything that are saying no. You know, I guess if I heard some people saying, you know, no to the project, I guess I would have a different take on it. But I don't see anyone that has come to say no. So I guess that's what I would like to know. I would like to have some people say that, you know, that think it's wrong or think we shouldn't do it. So I haven't, all the people that I've talked to and made conversation with, that's as long as they can make the connection and we can make our connection, then I guess I know it's 25 years and I hate it because it probably would have been way cheaper 25 years ago. But hey, this is where we're at now. And I just, that's,
Alderman Clem.
I don't see any.
That we do or do not? Okay, so is there a second to that? Second. Okay, is that?
So the agenda item was to discuss and approve to establish an ordinance providing the submission. So this was really just about giving direction, right? This is actually not to put it on authorized to put it on the ballot. Well, because we don't even have the ordinance or resolution drafted, right?
So Alderman Clem's
this would now,
motion.
right? So, though I would frame it in the same way that it's on the agenda. So I would frame it in the positive, the way that Alderman Stacy had it. So if she wanted to make the motion to put it to a vote, and then if you were in favor of it, you would vote yes. If you were not in favor of having it go to referendum, then you would vote no.
So it's basically the same thing, it's just different wording.
Correct. You always want to phrase in the positive.
So how do we handle this with the motion that's on the table with the second?
I heard Alderman Clem
Yeah,
make
and
the
Alderman
motion.
Parker seconded it.
Oh,
So it's basically the same thing, it's just a twist in the wording.
I guess Alderman Clem, would you have any objection to phrasing your motion in the affirmative?
That's the opposite of what he's asking.
He wants a no.
Okay. Well, that's fine. I mean, it's just a best practice to frame in the positive, so you don't. It's not a rule. Right.
Yeah, right. I get where you're going with it. So do you want to keep your motion and it's just voted on in an opposite thought? I mean, there's nothing, it's not like it's voting on an ordinance. It's just, it basically is, are we moving this forward or are we not?
Putting on an agenda, I mean, we were putting it up for a vote or not.
Correct.
Alderman Stacy, are you willing to make your motion to have this placed on an agenda to have a resolution placed on the agenda to put this to the vote of the people?
I would like to make a motion.
Okay. All right. So Alderman Clem, Alderman Stacy is willing to make the motion. So are you withdrawing your motion then? All right. Okay. Alderman Parker, are you going to withdraw your second?
Sure.
All right. So Alderman Stacy, if I understand right, you're making a motion to instruct staff to prepare a resolution or ordinance to have the question of whether or not to extend the water main placed on the ballot at the April 1st election, correct?
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, let's put it to a vote and move on to our next item.
No.
Oops. Parker?
No.
Stacy?
Yes.
Shadle?
No.
Sanders? Yes. Sellers?
No.
Clem? And Monroe.
Oh.
The motion fails 2-6.
Move on to item number 23, which is reports of department heads. Finance.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. Community Development.
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Public Works.
Just like to tell you that at the end of the season here, we will have paved 7.5 miles of roads this year. Hydrant flushing started today, will last about 3 weeks, and leaf pickup starts on November 1st.
Thank you. Fire.
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Police.
Nothing from the police, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Library.
Nothing tonight.
And I'm guessing communication, it doesn't have anything. IT. We move on to city manager's report.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
And I have nothing to report, so we'll move on to Alderman Simmons,
No, nothing, thanks.
Alderman Parker,
Nothing.
Alderman Stacy,
No.
Alderman Shadle,
Nothing.
Alderman Sanders is not at his desk, Alderman Sellers, Alderman Clem, Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm good.
We'll go on to item number 27, which is public comment. Tommy? Say something positive, Tommy.
Jody Mo, you got the update about the beef roof you told me?
I'm sorry?
That beef roof you said they're gonna.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I hear there was an issue with some of their equipment, so hopefully soon.
I think Joey Dickerman knows the update.
I know everything, Tommy.
Is there any other public comments this evening? Then we will move on to adjournment. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Wait, I think
Oh,
I got
and
a
Debbie
call.
wants a call.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle. Sanders is absent. Sellers. Clem. He might be absent too. Monroe. Thank you.
Thanks.